Hi, I'll keep this simple. If you would like to help out the network and help out this show, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and consider kicking us some money. We offer plenty of reward tiers at all kinds of levels with good stuff, so go check out the offerings. Once again, that is patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, our monthly Q&A listener response game announcement show.
Listen, you know how this is going to go. We're going to answer your questions. We have a topic, and then we're going to read your responses to June's games. And as a little bit of a dessert, we're going to reveal what we're going to be playing in August.
Extremely Mike Ehrmantraut voice. You know how this is going to go. It's a special day, Cole.
Is it a special day, Gary?
June 15th. It is Pocket's birthday.
Oh, it's his Prime Day.
He is a Prime. Pocket is now, for people who don't know, cats go through multiple life stages. I found this out at the vet.
Okay.
They're kittens, juveniles, primes, adult, like senior geriatric.
Okay.
So he's in the literal prime of his life right now.
Nice.
3 years
old. Oh, what a good boy.
Yeah. 3 years with the big man.
Nice.
Looking back.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's doing good. I had all kinds of plans for him, and then a car crashed in my house last night. So really stole the thunder from Pocket.
A little bit. Yeah. It stole his grief. Yeah. No. So,
it stole his valor. It was the Punisher, man. They had Punisher stickers all over their car.
We need to save that for Abject Suffer.
Yeah, I know. It was literally like, oh, back the blue. Oh no, the blue. I got to hit and run after I hit this person's car. It was a brand new car, like with no less than 4 Punisher stickers, like
nice.
Punisher skull flags.
Yeah. Good on you. Rats off to you.
Yeah, Semper Fi. You piece of shit.
Yeah. Kind of a weird day at the Butterfield household.
Yeah. 2 weeks out from the move, just under the wire. Just
it's the house version of retiree.
Yeah. Just 2 weeks left till retirement. It is bonkers, but we'll definitely talk about that in Abject Suffering.
Yeah,
we have actual things to talk about here, but I wanted to give a heads up to listeners because I'm going to yawn and be tired a lot because a car crashed into my house at 3 a.m.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just I'm sleepy.
Oh man. Yeah, I am happy that you and Pocket are okay.
Yeah, everyone is okay.
Yeah.
I'll get started here with a comment from Evan. Evan says, less of a question, more of a response to the statement, how much blood is on Mario's hands? This is referencing the Super Mario 3D World thing where we're talking about how every time Mario doesn't summarily execute Koopa, he is responsible for all the crimes Koopa commits afterwards. Evan goes on, I disagree. I don't think Mario is letting Bowser live. He brutally murders King Koopa on many occasions, be it lava or explosive spiked balls. And Bowser keeps on being resurrected through magical means by, and it says Kames, but I imagine that's, what's his name? The wizard.
Yeah.
The little tiny wizard Koopa.
Yeah.
Whose name is escaping me right this second. Mario is using any means necessary to save his homeland, but he's facing a never-ending threat from an undead abomination. Also, you guys keep referring to being pancaked by a drunk dump truck driver, bringing back repressed traumatic memories of a story I should not have read.
Oh, no.
Somebody read the Tiny Dinky Daffy Chronicles and Tiny Dinky Daffy Origins.
I'm going to fucking kill you, Bart Harley Jarvis.
Yeah. Fuck you, Bart Harley Jarvis.
I hope you die. Yeah, I don't know what story that Evan is referring to. I mean, in some games, Bowser explicitly comes back as Dry Bowser, which I think that it.
There's a Dry Bowser. Yeah. Ordinarily, it's Big Wet Bowser. In Bowser's Fury, it's Big Wet Bowser.
He is big and wet.
And then he's extremely big and extremely big. And he's wet. Yeah. But yeah, I guess he does have an undead quality to him, but so does Mario. You know, Bowser could also just have like extra lives.
Yeah, true.
So they're just running out the clock.
It's a cursed Mario, seek lest, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to questions, Andrew writes, often, quote, ludonarrative dissonance is spoken of as a bad thing, that it's a mismatch of narrative and gameplay that undermines both. But are there any examples where ludonarrative dissonance is actually a positive, where the mismatch between narrative and gameplay has an interesting, emotional, and or entertaining effect? And I'll just do a blanket answer here where I will say that I will always favor fun over realism, generally.
Yeah. You could go too far with the reason why ludonarrative dissonance became kind of an annoying buzzword is because people, armchair critics, like kind of, you know, us as well, took it too far and used it too liberally. You know, so like it's not really a good example of bad ludonarrative dissonance when you can share items across in the middle of battle even though you're not standing next to each other. You know, that is technically ludonarrative dissonance kind of by the biggest stretch of the definition, but it favors fun. I think what Andrew's probably referring to more, like the classic example that pops to my mind is them the gamified part of Call of Duty 4 when you're dropping the bombs. That is very realistic, so it's not really dissonance, but the idea there is to try to give you that, like, I'm playing a video game but people are actually dying feeling. You know, like you're just literally clicking, you know, and that's art, you know, imitates life, but I think that's the example I can think of you know, popular used.
And like there are times where you're just sometimes doing something dumb that just satisfies the requirement that this needs to be a game that fits an interaction model. I think that ludonarrative dissonance as a criticism is a bit of an outcropping of just a general "I'm tired of shooting people in games" kind of thing. You know, that became just like a pseudo academic way of saying why always kill.
Like, you know, every video game, almost every video game protagonist has body counts in the like quadruple digits. You know, whereas in real life, killing somebody, you know, should be taken with more care than that. You know, but in video games, it's not. And I will always point to the thing that I feel like is the counter argument for every single one of those, which is genre. You know, like it's just the video games are emulating pop culture genres, action and sci-fi and horror. And those genres in any medium have really high body counts. You know,
I'll say this one: most of the time that you spend in Pathologic has you scrounging around in trash cans and trading needles to kids for pills, which doesn't make any sense given like what the story actually is, which is you going around and, you know, trying to work with the leaders of the town to stop it from falling apart in the middle of a catastrophe. But
yeah, it's weird that nobody will spot you a sandwich.
Right.
You know, drop a fry. Like nobody will do that. Whereas you'd have to, So it's pretty weird that you're under the employ, but you're not given a per diem.
Yeah, right. They're not giving you a slice of bread and some canned vegetables, you know, to get going, you know. But I think that is, you know, that loop is crucial to the sense of privation and always being on the edge, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting example of this because in a weird way, it's ludonarrative consonance in giving you that feeling of you know, deprivation and what you're doing. It just doesn't make sense for the people you're working with in the circles. It's almost like from the gameplay side, you play one of the you know, unhomed kids, and then from the story side, you're playing like an outside consultant. you know. But yeah, just off the top of our head, so there definitely are times where it's like way more times you might think that it's useful, sometimes where it's intentional to make a point, but a lot of times just to make video games not horrible to play,
Yeah.
I would say. Jacob says, we were talking in the Slack about not understanding obvious or intuitive rules about engaging with games that can generally be translated across all games in a genre. Moonborn said their example was being too stubborn and not understanding that you always have to engage with every mechanic in a character action game, even if they have a high learning curve. Otherwise, you'll run into a brick wall eventually. My example was realizing that developers are generally trying to help you out with specific weapon placements in shooters. So if you get a new gun or there's a specific pickup before an encounter, the encounter will most likely be easier if you use that pickup. Understanding that item placement was often intentional really escaped me until my early 20s. What other commonly understood facts or tips about games escaped you for longer than they probably should have? Games are balanced and designed to use your consumables.
Yes. And oftentimes what seems like the obvious way to go is actually the obvious way to go. When you're navigating stuff.
Yeah, like spending a lot of time just like digging on the corners of walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, spending so much time second guessing yourself and like getting into weird little bargaining, sessions with your imagined version of the designer, thinking, okay, you're trying to trick me, but you know that I know that you're trying to trick me, so you're doing this. Well, no, oftentimes they're just trying to guide you to the next thing. Right.
Yeah. You don't want to end up in that scene in Princess Bride.
Right.
Forgive the background noise. They're putting up a temporary wall from a car last night at 3 a.m. crashed into my house.
Yeah.
Waking me up and disturbing several lamps. So it should not take long, but they are fixing.
Have you notified the lamps' families?
I'm lampless. Repeat, lampless. The lamps actually ended up okay.
Yeah, lamps are expensive.
Thank God.
I don't know if you bought lamps recently, but they're costly.
They can be. I'm super rich in lamps now due to some circumstances. So
okay,
I'm a lamp lord.
Oh, look at me! La la la.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, I think it is so common that people just don't use consumables in games. I promise you will have more fun playing video games once you murder that part of you and drown it in a fucking river.
Yep.
Like you can just use the stuff.
Yeah.
It's there and it's more fun. Like not only is it, it might be like, the argument is like, oh, I might need it later, or like, oh, it won't be challenging if I don't use that. Like, no. Video games, once you strip away all of those unique selling features, like you can play Dishonored without using the powers.
Yep.
And stuff like that. But why? Like it's the selling point of the game.
Yeah.
Use all your shit. Don't subject yourself to artificial privation.
Yeah. The hair's gonna grow back, right? Yep. So do whatever you want with it.
There's always another appetite.
Yeah.
You can't spoil your appetite by eating a cookie, because if you wait a little bit, you'll want to eat again.
Yeah.
So it's so that is the big thing going into the original question, that's definitely something designers do intentionally. Like something will be like a bullshit encounter, and then I'll just be like, man, this is just really fucking hard, and then it becomes super doable if I use my stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. Abram writes, over the past year, I've really gotten into the Link to the Past randomizer. I love the way it remixes one of my favorite games and turns it into a logic puzzle. And it's got many formats, cross keys, inverted, etc., to keep things interesting. What do you think about randomizers? Are there games that they really do or do not work with? Are they transformative or nostalgia bait? Love the show, and I especially love these dispatch episodes. I'm happy you like these, Abram.
Yeah, thanks, Abram. They're fun for us.
Yeah,
as well.
Dark Souls randomizer. Dark Souls randomizer.
Yeah. Some of the most fun that I've had with Dark Souls. I have wanted to fuck around with the Link to the Past one and the Super Metroid one.
Yep.
And just haven't. And the Resident Evil one, which I know you recommended to me, which sounds cool. I just haven't, because I haven't had time.
I had trouble getting the Resident Evil randomizer to work. I'm worried that a patch might have broken it.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. I tried to stream it for fun one night, and it didn't work. That may have just been my weird PC, but
yeah.
Because
that seems like a game that would benefit from it. So yeah, I think they're cool. I think they're transformative. There's a little bit of like, not nostalgia bait, but there's a little bit of just, I want to be in those locations. With like the Dark Souls one, we did a whole, for people who don't listen to it because they don't like Dark Souls. For this topic specifically, Abram, if you're not a Dark Souls person, listen to the Dark Souls randomizer episode of Bonfireside Chat, because we go into the value of randomizers in general quite a bit.
And we both posted a randomizer run of the game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew F asks, Cole, what is one game that you love that Gary hates or dislikes? Same question to Gary. What do you love that Cole doesn't?
Oh, throw in any kind of visual novel style game. I have patience for those, whereas Gary doesn't. I think that I don't know if you dipped your toe into it, but like I have time to fuck around with Virtue's Last Reward, and that would be absolute poison to Gary, let's say.
Yeah.
Let me know if I'm being unfair. Yeah, Danganronpa, Steins Gate, like these. I got more waiting on my Switch right now.
Yeah. Time travel games that are about alternate realities.
Yep.
And anime people.
Yep. Yeah. But we don't have to like all of the exact same things. And a cool thing about doing this network is I've got people I can talk to about them with. Dennis likes those games as well on the level, and Jala and I have kind of like mini wafts that we do about those.
She kind of plays them though, right? I got the impression she gets cranky about them.
She sometimes gets cranky about them, but it's more like clowning on the dialogue and stuff. She generally
gotcha.
like enjoys them. She likes Steins Gate. She likes Phoenix Wright and all that.
I'm a little bit more friendly to Phoenix Wright than the other ones because I think the courtroom evidence kind of stuff is really cool gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like the stories in those games tend to really push me off, but I think that's cool to play.
Yeah.
Will's real into those too if you're ever looking for somebody else to talk about
nice
those kind of things with.
Yeah.
And then something that I really love that you hate.
It's good luck identifying something I outright hate, Gary.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that you hate. Like I'm definitely bigger into roguelikes than you are.
Yep.
I would say but it's not hate.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like more my exact pocket. Mm-hmm. Like I have a deeper appetite for them.
Yeah. Go back and listen to the Monster Train and Gungeon episodes. There may be more coming in the future.
Which are like both games you liked.
Yeah.
But weren't, those things are so for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoy my time with them, but they're not in my blood,
Yeah. Probably the closest thing. And Brave Fencer Musashi, which I don't love. I just have nostalgia for.
Right.
But love would probably be pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. Connor writes, not sure if this is too personal, so please ignore if you feel weird about discussing it, but I was wondering if you play certain games or certain types of games to get yourselves out of a depressive or anxious funk, or conversely, was there a particular game that put you into a bad headspace that you had to put down? I love Bloodborne, for example, but it occasionally triggers an anxiety response in me that I'll need to walk away from.
Yeah. I will use video games to get away from this. It doesn't necessarily get me out of an anxious or depressive funk. It just kind of distracts me.
Yeah.
Like everything, which is great. So I will go back to old standbys. Like I'll play Isaac or I'll play whatever roguelike I'm currently jamming on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excuse me, something I ate. I don't know how much that's coming through on the mic, but somebody is drilling right next to my window.
Yeah, it came through a little bit, but not as much as you think, probably.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just very funny because it happens every time I open my mouth. I'm just like, I very rarely get put into that state by video games. If I'm already in like an anxious or depressive state and I'm playing something that I need to play on a deadline, it kind of doesn't matter what it is, but I'll get crankier and more like, oh, fuck this. Like, I will get kind of irritated, but it doesn't put me into it due to subject matter. Like I can just pick up Bloodborne and I find Souls like games like in a general sense relaxing.
Yeah.
To play. So
games generally don't tend to affect my mood one way or another. Like the closest that it gets to like a game having a negative effect on me is when I fall into a hole with it. See something like
Stardew.
Yeah, Stardew, Frostpunk, RimWorld, Prison Architect, any of those. Minecraft was that for a good long while. So that's more of like an addiction compulsive kind of thing. And I don't feel bad because I'm in it. I feel bad because of other things I'm not doing. Because I'm engaging in those those compulsively. As for the first one, like if I'm depressed or anxious, which is more of the time than I would like, which would be 0, I would like for it to be 0. playing games to like get out of that is actually not really good because my depression manifests a lot of the time in just complete disinterest in things that I actually like, like kind of classical, clinical kind of thing. So it's just really hard for me to, stay focused on, to stay attached to kind of like any given task if there's not an external, deadline or thing
pressure,
forcing me to do it. Yeah.
That's when you watch Simpsons or Bob's Burgers or something.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
You just put on something comforting.
Yeah.
Biff asks, hey chaps, quick question. What's your favorite gaming environment? I always buy games on my PC, but never end up playing them as I work at my desk all day. I tend to play on the TV downstairs because my kids play the console too, but my favorite is plugging the console into my bedroom TV and sitting in my office space. Boring question, I know, but I was interested in your thoughts.
No, I don't think this is a boring question. I think this is an opportunity to be hashtag relatable.
Sure. We're always working on our relatability Q ratings.
Yep.
People find you unapproachable as
Good.
straight, white, middle-aged, overweight men in the prime of their lives. People find you unapproachable. For me, I like. I'm pretty actually agnostic about this. Mm-hmm. When I worked at a computer, I didn't like sitting at my computer as much, but I also have a strong like sitting down, losing track of time, and playing like a CRPG feelings at my computer that's very positive to me.
Yeah.
Like losing myself in a Baldur's Gate or what have you. That I associate with that. I like lounging on my couch. I have a comfortable couch. So that's that. And I like playing games on my Switch before bed. So I like it all, baby. The one thing I have has never gelled with me is being outside. I've tried it, not just for Boktai purposes, but like just because it's like, oh, it's nice. Like maybe I'll sit under a tree and play my Switch.
Yeah.
I can't. That just makes me feel like the whole world is staring at me. I cannot disappear.
Yeah, that's for reading. I like reading outside or reading on a porch or a deck, but
I'll do that for sure.
Yeah. Man, I just the entire time I was in college, my bedroom was the one that had the deck out front, and that was just perfect.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So for me, pretty agnostic in general. I have a nice television and a very, very comfortable, oversized, overstuffed recliner that I like being in, and it's a situation when I'm in it and I'm playing a game. I have a little stand for my iPad where I can type and make notes. And my cats will sit on my lap, sometimes two at a time, which is great while I'm playing. That's I think when I'm most comfortable doing that out in the living room in that exact situation. It's nice.
Yeah. Very it's nice to have a variety of situations that I enjoy.
Yeah. Let's do one more of these here. Maya, I know the last dispatch went like an hour, half hour too long. So.
Yeah, and we had a lot of responses and stuff too.
Yeah.
It's fine. These questions will keep.
Yeah, but Maya writes, I've always been a fan of the Call of Cthulhu tabletop role playing game, and uses of sanity mechanics in RPGs. But lately, I've seen many people in the community citing these systems as ableist and othering in regards to gamifying mental health. I am torn as to how to feel because, yes, as a neurodiverse individual and a fan of these sorts of mechanics, I do find the relegation of mental health and certain real-life hardships that many go through to a roll of the dice or a flip of the bit troubling. Do you think these can still be enjoyed with a grain of salt, as I have done, or do you think we should work as a whole to find better ways to include sanity mechanics or representation in our own entertainment? This is something that I sometimes run into, being a fan of horror games, where oftentimes they'll just, in instant horror, just put it in an asylum. To me, that is less about like the horror in those situations. I have decided for me personally is less about the people there and more about the inhumane treatment of the people there is oftentimes why that symbolism works for me, and and is used in horror a lot of the time.
It's been that way for a long time. Like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is like that's not about what a fucked up dude the chief is.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
the critique of the institution itself has been around for a long time.
Yeah, and so I think that if it comes down to a choice of what are they looking at, deciding whether or not this is problematic, using those, oftentimes it is the treatment of the people that I choose to find scarier or choose to read into the work itself. As far as mechanics, I don't know. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, Maya.
I think it's fine to enjoy with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Like I got a bad brain. I don't know if that makes it okay for me. And if somebody were like, hey, it's really disappointing to me that you love Darkest Dungeon, even though it has sanity mechanics in it. I don't know what to tell you. Like, sorry to disappoint, I suppose. Like I recognize why the critiques of it. It just, there's no ethical consumption. Everybody draws their own line, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, there is, it is almost more insidious and gross to just be like, yeah, your mind and emotions cannot be touched by outside events.
Yeah.
Like it is okay to have this person defenestrated or bisected in half, but having them become manic is a bridge too far because there are people who are really manic. Like, to me, that feels like an arbitrary line. Again, not telling anybody what they can or should be offended by or hurt by, but like there are also people who really lose limbs, and
there
are people who really go through all this stuff.
People who lose loved ones to murder, right? Not to what about it, but they're like this all is included, and worth looking at if we are worrying about how people feel.
So like something where they use that in say like a Darkest Dungeon thing context, I really like that because it's like, hey, these people are it's part of the theming of the game. It's not done trivially. Like the idea that you are sending grist into a mill is the thematic and mechanical focus of that game. The disposability of these people and them coming away affected in ways that affect the gameplay that is permanent on them, or that you can sometimes treat and everything, I think is actually like a better use than to just ignore it. There's a degree of willful omission to all video games just to make them video games. Like you're not accounting for everything. I don't understand why accounting for mental health, if you're doing it respectfully and you're not doing it to make fun, is the deal breaker. It's different if you're just like, this town is being haunted by a mentally ill person and everybody should lock up their doors and be scared. Like that's a thing where it's like, okay, maybe that's bad. Or like, the poor people of the city are rioting. It's Dark Knight Rises or whatever. Like I could see that being, Joker recruits these mentally ill people. That shouldn't be played as a joke. But a sanity mechanic specifically, I think, is in a gray area for me that I accept.
I also am more concerned about even just like assumptions that are built into a story. Did you ever play? It's a game called The Park. It's a game that I think Majesco or Funcom made using assets from The Secret World. It's like a horror walking simulator kind of game.
I did not.
Yeah, that one ultimately boils down to this person was mentally ill and took medication. It wasn't that bad. It actually like really sucked. Like it sucked to the moon from the sky. That's what they pulled away from is look at the damage these psych meds did to this person.
Oh yeah.
Or like Senua's Sacrifice, which is controversial. It was even controversial among the responses of people who wrote in. But like we looked at that as like being really dicey when it talks about using psychosis or altered perceptions or dissociation.
More.
Yeah, as a superpower, right? That feels weird to me.
Yeah, it's like any of those things where it's like how you know it when you see it, and you'll figure out what makes you feel hinky. So I don't want to tell anybody they shouldn't feel hinky, or that it's bad, but I also don't want to be told that I should feel hinky about that, because to me it exists in the gulf of like judgment call. golf.
And something that is true about these, as somebody who has been poking into and out of even Call of Cthulhu and different systems, as they have just comparing editions and stuff like that. This is something that's getting better and has more nuance, actually.
Oh yeah.
Like they have developed a more sophisticated vocabulary, and some of the later books even, address some of the troubled aspects of the past, directly in their text and say, hey, here's what we're doing to try and make this just a little bit better for everybody. I think that makes the systems more interesting too. So it's not a static thing either.
No. I mean, if people, this is a, pull, like, don't make me tap the sign. If people aren't allowed to get better, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like we have to allow creators to learn from this stuff, and we can't just hold people on pass fail based on the standards of the 1980s.
Yep.
Like Call of Cthulhu came out, in the 80s as a role-playing game. And I don't want to be judged for all the things I did in the 80s.
Neither do
all
I.
the time in the Vice Squad.
Neither do I. For a good portion of the 80s, I couldn't control my bowels. So
yeah. You were a zygote, man, for quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
You can't be held responsible for things you do as a zygote. We swing wildly pro-life. Zygote should be tried as adults. Like
mask off.
Yeah, mask off. But yeah,
fuck.
so I know that's a stock answer for a lot of these moral issues around games, but draw your line.
Yep.
I think it's okay personally.
Yeah.
Moving on to life questions. Matt says some nice things about comparing our old Bonfireside Chat episodes to more recent one. It says that we're better than. But thank you, Matt.
You.
It would be weird if we didn't get better. Like, I think we should have quit by now if we didn't get any better at it.
Yeah.
Cue angry person telling us that we haven't gotten better about it.
Yep.
And just got worse. Second, please analyze this recurring dream I've had for years. Generally, I find out that my apartment building has a brand new or secret that I didn't know about endless restaurant hall or food court in it with everything I could possibly want. Where once was a lobby and a parking garage is now miles of pizza, noodles, chicken wings, and ice cream sundaes. In my dreams, I don't think I ever eat the food. I think I just get overwhelmed by choice, like walking around Disney World trying to figure out which ride to go on first. These are generally the happiest dreams I have, weirdly enough, and the rest are all about missing flights and not studying for test. Is there some deeper meaning here, or am I just a hungry boy? And then a quick little lightning round bonus question. What am I choosing on the endless food court from heaven? Or what are we choosing?
I mean, it's pretty hard to go wrong with Mongolian barbecue.
Mongolian barbecue is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of variety. You can make it. You can make your own. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could get vegetables in there and stuff.
Yep.
Which is good. So you don't die.
Yes. You get your vitamins and stuff. Yeah.
Like maybe like if it wasn't food court sushi, like unlimited good sushi would be great.
Yeah, it would.
But food court.
Yeah.
And then as far as what that dream means, I don't know. There's probably is writing about how like so many dreams are about finding secret parts of your house.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it's
I love
a
it.
really common thing.
Yeah. I love that it is so common, and I love those dreams. I will often find a door and then realize that where I'm living is actually connected somehow to every place I have ever lived before, and walk through all of it. It's kind of like idea. What Remains of Edith Finch, kind of,
It's a super neat idea.
Yeah. So that's cool. It's like a nice nostalgic feeling. Like in the past, I have kind of associated finding the extra door, to the wing of the apartment you didn't realize was there as just kind of like dissatisfaction with where I lived. Like, oh, this is tiny. I don't have what I want. Because oftentimes what I found through there was, something that I was missing where I was living. Right.
Yeah. I'm going to be the killjoy who says I don't put any stock in dreams.
Yeah.
In a general sense. Like, I think that, it is probably, I only have nightmares about missing flights. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that probably does reveal that I don't want to miss flights.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Solve the case, Freud. But in terms of dreams being like interpretive or anything like that, I generally kind of don't really go in for that, which I know makes me not fun. But
I think it might just be a hungry boy. Maybe a small handful of berries or some nuts before you go to bed might quell that. Also, these
whatever
are happy
you do,
dreams.
don't eat any of the food. Like you will become trapped in that realm.
Yes, 100%. Don't drink the water.
Yeah, if it is very Pan's Labyrinth rule. So
Yes,
it's really good that you're not eating the food, no matter how hungry you are.
Yeah.
You will not wake up.
Mm-hmm. Also, telling somebody to eat right before bed is a bad. If I eat right before bed, I get bad heartburn. So, because
hire somebody to slip an almond into your mouth while you're sleeping.
one almond every half hour. So, Mark writes, when the inevitable human apocalypse comes and our species is wiped out, which current tiny critter do you hope will win the evolutionary lottery and rise up to be the next dominant species on the planet? I vote for woodchucks because they're cute, chubby little bucktooth boys who will probably just grow up to be something resembling fuzzy Snorlax instead of inventing nuclear weapons.
Similar energy, but I'm going to go ahead and say the capybara, which is similar, but is the animal that is famous for getting along with all animals and being chill.
That is a really good answer.
Yeah, they do eat their own shit. But to me, that's kind of a bonus if they're huge because like you're not cleaning it up,
Yeah.
But yeah, they just chill.
Uh-huh.
I could handle like a bunch of big like it's like the hills in Mario World.
Oh yeah.
That are sentient. And have faces. They'd be like that. Like you just like lean on a gigantic cappy and he's like, cool.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Scratch right there. Oh yeah.
That is the perfect answer. I was going to say cats because I like cats.
Yeah. I love cats, but they are apex predators.
True. Yeah.
So we would die.
Well, we'd already be dead in this situation. Other things would die.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joseph says, live question. Hello, do you have any advice at all when it comes to saving money? Thanks. Love the show and all that you do.
I mean, so my two example tips on this are always check and make sure that you're not subscribed to more things than you're using. Also, having any kind of budget helps. Just kind of like the best way to lose weight is, not a specific diet, but just to count calories. I have used for the past 5 years or so an app called You Need a Budget, and that has helped me literally track and categorize everything that I spend. And has helped out. Just knowing what's going out and what's coming in makes you a little bit more mindful about how you spend your money.
Yeah, it's a very popular app and it's on Steam, so it pops up on Steam where it's like somebody's playing it, which is very funny. Yeah, cool. let's join in. Invite your friends to watch.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Keep track. That's the only thing you can really do.
Yeah.
I think
everything else probably is a small trick that might be unsustainable.
Yeah. They're a bunch of like little life hacky, tricks. Like when I was dutifully keeping my checking register.
Yeah.
When every time I would just like update it every single time I spent money, I always rounded up.
Yeah.
So if I spent, $19.02, I always just took out $20 of my running account to cover like miscellaneous fees and shit.
Yeah.
And that didn't really help me save money, but it helped me not lose money.
Yeah. Yeah. There are apps that you can use. Even my bank added that as a feature, like roundups or whatever, where it will just kind of it'll round up and then take whatever around it and put it into a different account. Oftentimes that bears interest, just as a way to
space.
Yeah, like Superman 3. Yeah.
Moving on to media questions. I think I answered. I asked that one. I think this is you.
Yes, I will do this. Cinderelf writes, my 1-year-old daughter's new favorite music video is David Bowie's Dance Magic Dance performance from Labyrinth, and she wants to watch it at least once a day. The clip on YouTube starts with the baby brother surrounded by a bunch of goblins, bawling his eyes out as the music for the song starts ramping up. I imagine this is why she likes it so much. That this baby, just barely younger than her, is her viewpoint character. Just wanted to share this because I know you guys have an appreciation for the movie. On a related note, what are some of your earliest media memories?
Real quick pro tip to Cinderelf and any other Labyrinth heads out there. The video for Underground, the second single from that movie that David Bowie released, has a bunch of like unique puppet and animation content in it. Like the video is David Bowie wandering around, and he meets some puppets and stuff. So you get to see some, some unused sets and extra puppet content.
Oh, neat.
If you like those labyrinth puppets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Earliest media memories. I have a lot of memories of being, I don't know what the first ones were, but I have memories of watching PBS, like Zoobilee Zoo
Okay.
and Sesame Street, and playing Atari's Joust
Okay.
as a very young kid. I have memories of watching the Ten Commandments.
Okay.
Like exactly like that Simpsons episode, like my parents letting me stay up late to watch the Ten Commandments because it was biblical,
Right.
you know?
Not realizing it's 5 hours long. Yeah.
Yeah. Just exactly that Simpsons thing. Those are probably my early ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of kids media and stuff like that. Just a general morass of Nick Jr. And PBS content. The strongest memory I remember being a way too young kid, probably 3 or 4, and my mom and stepdad were watching a home video copy of Pet Sematary and didn't see fit to send me out of the room.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just like, hey, Cole, hey, little baby, watch this.
Come to church.
I still can't watch that movie.
Yeah.
The 1989 Pet Cemetery still, just fucking ruined me as a little kid. Yeah.
I don't remember it, but back when I had a family and stuff, the apocryphal story was me being taken to see Gremlins and running out of the theater. That's the first movie I saw in the theater.
First movie that I was taken to was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
Also scary.
It's a dark movie, the first Turtles. They really softened in the second.
So there's like the 20 minutes where it's just the turtles off on their own, like training and brooding.
Yep.
It's really weird. Also, I was just thinking about the life cycle of, you mentioned Nick Jr. Like Nickelodeon is missing a life cycle because you have Nick Jr., then Nickelodeon, and then you go to Nick at Night and it's all the honeymooners and shit.
Right.
Like there's no like 30-something, 20-something like Nickelodeon.
Yeah. No,
You know?
you go over to Adult Swim and then then you wait there until until you die, and then you hop on the silver ship that takes you across the sea to TV land.
To Nick at Night. Yeah.
Yeah.
They take the black and white bridge. Or to TV land.
Yep.
Stefan asks, your episode of Unfilmable, which is now my favorite show on the network, thank you, Stefan, on the ritual was great. I know how unpleasant unwarranted entertainment recommendations can be, but here we go. Have either of you read Weird from the same author, Adam Neville? It's a series of very short stories, roughly 10 pages apiece, that feature no characters or dialogue. Instead, you move through mostly desolate areas, picking through the aftermath of some secret rite that summoned eldritch abominations. They read a bit like a walking simulator crossed with Dark Souls item descriptions. I have not, but it sounds cool.
That sounds very cool to me. Yeah, I like I like those stories that are told just through the environments. See a recommendation that I've made before, Life, a User's Manual, that kind of tells a story by going room by room through an apartment building and just looking at the things that are there. Yeah, no, I've not.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've never read that, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And I have Audible credits I need to use. So, yeah. Moving on to some show questions. Matt Bixler, hello, writes, I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise and getting more into its community than I tend to for new games, anticipating updates, watching YouTubes, chatting in Discords, etc. I feel like going back to an older Monster Hunter game would be a completely different experience, especially since I think the sense of community built within the themes of the game dovetail very nicely with actually engaging with its community in real life. Would you be open to doing a WAF for a freshly released game where the community aspect is known to be important, or are your multiplayer allergies just too strong?
Open, yeah, but I think that like any of those things, we want to be really upfront about our limited perception.
Yeah.
We're not going to take on a part-time job,
right? Right.
to do 1 week of content for the show. So like, with the canonical example that we have done is Team Fortress 2, we both liked that and both played it, but we just weren't experts and people yelled at us. That'll be the same thing if we ever do like World of Warcraft and we like talked about, oh, we would do like levels 1 through 10 or something, or 1 through 20.
Yeah.
Like we'd figure out some kind of limited scope to talk about and just make it very clear that we're just talking about that. And then it's still inevitably get like 1,000 people saying like, oh, the real game unlocks.
Right.
And then give us like 20 different answers for stuff we didn't do. So like, yes, with a pretty big caveat to it. The trickier part about it, and other than multiplayer allergy or willingness, is the time commitment. Those tend to take even to get a relatively decent understanding of them.
It's not even a it's not even like a let me think here. It ends up becoming just a part of your like daily life. Like, oh, you talk about, I'm going to jump into a Discord. I don't know how I would report on being in a Discord for a game for the show, right? Or, like, I don't know, being in a chat room that's not mine. Yeah,
it's hard. We have our own version of all those things.
Yeah.
So it's not that I have any disdain for that kind of stuff, but like the idea of joining a different Slack for a game and getting that invested in it, like while I'm doing the job, is really tough. Like, we play 3 or 4 games a month, for the show, which isn't tons for when you are doing it for a living. But some of these are upwards of like 20, 30, 40 hours sometimes. And we also do it on top of everything else we do while trying to maintain any kind of healthy balance. In terms of the rest of our life and everything. So it's just tricky to do that. Like, not only would I not know how to report on being in that Discord, I just can't imagine feeling like I had time to check out that kind of ephemera.
Yeah. It'd be tricky. It'd be real tricky. Yeah. So open to it, but also like, how do you know when a new game coming out will have that? Oftentimes that kind of thing is only known in retrospect. Like, it's predictable for Monster Hunter Rise because those games are, attended to so ravenously by people, but also, like, it would be really
lifestyle
rough.
Games.
Yeah. And I haven't played Monster Hunters 1 through 4. I don't know that I would get Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah, you wish it was 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Like, there's, this is a long way of saying it'd be very hard for us to do a Monster Hunter game, so don't try to sponsor one. Like, I've also bounced off multiple entries in that, and after many people have told me that the next one is the one that's going to get me, like that is also going to set us up for, like, it's almost similar to Yakuza, right? Because that series is also a series of very long games that has a huge dedicated fan base where there have been incremental improvements throughout, and for our format, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
When you cover them, because it's like you're always covering the wrong one to somebody, and there are always going to be additional context and advancements that you don't have because you're not, like, it feels like conservatively 7 of those games come out a year in terms of releases and new ones, and spinoffs, and I'm just not up on them. I got nothing against them. I just don't have time for it.
Yeah.
There's too much game out there.
See, also, I'm happy that somebody, Mitch, was the one who sponsored Enforcer Hand and covering an Armored Core game. Has a similar entry point kind of problem. Yeah, it's just, it's tough because how do you know? How do you know which one? And there's going to be lots of things pulling you in different directions.
Like, one of the things that we'll do on this show, or that I think is cool about the show, is that we, by definition, do not have ossified gaming backgrounds, because we are gaining it as we go. Like, I absolutely love, and I'm friends with the Retronauts dudes. They don't replay they replay some of the stuff that they cover, but sometimes they're just talking about the history of a game, and it's a different show. And that's great. That's awesome. And I listen and I support them on Patreon, and you should too. But it does mean that, like, when it comes to stuff that they've had firsthand experience with, there are kind of like limited lanes. Like, they've all played all the Final Fantasy games. Like, Jeremy has played all the Mega Mans and all the Metal Gears, and you kind of end up with these context lanes, and we're not quite there. Like, we have context lanes that we had before we started the show, and we are still doing new stuff for the show. But the idea of, like, building up that context, like, if we were going to do the Armored Core games, right? Yeah. Like, it would take a really long time to get that context within the context of the show, and we would shed listeners who are not interested in that.
Yes.
For some people, that they would be way into that, and some people would be like, Jesus Christ, like, we're entering into, like, week 17 of Armored Core, context, and it would be quite a lot.
Yeah.
Or even not even 17, but like,
Yeah,
it's
it'd be
an
plenty.
interesting thing. Like,
Yeah.
10 weeks would be a long time to spend on a series. 8 weeks would be a long time to spend on a series. So
Yeah.
Chris asks, how frequently do listeners or fans reference a bit or a line from an older episode from one of your numerous shows that you just straight up don't remember? I had this thought the other day because I fairly frequently think about Cole's amazing rant from Fallout 3, Watch Out for Fireballs, about cleaning up the goddamn skeletons. Half the time it's aimed at myself to get something done with my own life. I wondered the other day if he'd even remember this, given the sheer amount of output you both create. Apologies if that's a weird question. I'm just curious about this sort of thing.
Oh, I mean, people do reference stuff, and some, I would say 95% of the time I don't remember it unless it's like a thing that has become a meme. That it just is very established. I that rant that you're referring to about cleaning up the skeletons, I can kind of imagine what I said, but
yeah, just
based on the prompts, the
I'm like
same
AI constructing it in my head
yeah.
based on your like voice samples I've recorded from talking to you for a decade and like knowing you.
Yeah, the same person, same input, would the output be similar? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I forget stuff. We record and we talk too much. Sometimes something sticks out, but more often than not, no. Does that make me sad? No, it's just the job.
You can't remember everything.
Right.
It's an unusual job where we are essentially putting on a performance multiple times a week. And like each time is different. Like we're not doing a set, so there's no room for memorization. So it's like, it'd be like improv performers remembering all of their improv stuff after doing it for a decade.
Yeah.
But also and that's in terms of like bits and lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like, the way that we talked about Fallout 3's item economy was like a kind of musical jazz. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like
it's the points you don't make.
That's on the cuff. Yeah, you could say the Wasteland itself is a character. But in terms of just jokes and stuff, all that stuff's extemporaneous. I don't come into things with things in the pocket.
You never come to a rap battle with prepared material.
No, so it's all easy come, easy go.
Yep.
And it's fun in the moment, and then I let it go. I thank it for its service, and I'm reconduit to heaven.
Yep. And also, I'm super happy and flattered that people think highly enough of it to laugh at it and then bring it back to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very sweet. I appreciate it as well. Let's move on to, should we move on to our topic? I know we have a spicy amount of, or we do the lightning round first.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do lightning
Let's do the lightning
rounds.
round. And then the topic, and then because I know we have a spicy amount of responses, and also
we do.
I didn't get tons of sleep last night because at 3 a.m. a car crashed into my house.
Were there any remarkable stickers on it?
A lot of Punisher, like the angry Punisher skull, like the cops have on their cars.
I'd love to see a happy Punisher skull. Maybe you could like an ice cream cone.
Like Punisher used to have a good day sometimes.
Yeah, good 50.
I talk about he has a sidekick named Microchip with the unlikely name of Microchip. I read a Punisher comic that was really good, but it's about Microchip getting resurrected and like making zombies of his family and turning them against him.
Jesus
it's like that guy can't catch a break.
First he's called Microchip.
The Rick Remender Punisher shit's really good. Like there are really good Punisher comics. It just sucks that the cops stole him.
Yeah, or just general fascists everywhere. Yeah. And then, oh God, I love the idea of like a malevolent spirit that passes through a bumper sticker. Like everybody who puts that on, because like it's like the yellow sign. They mark themselves as being under the sway of the
yellow
Punisher.
Sign bumper sticker is already like pretty powerful and good.
Yeah.
That works like the yellow sign.
Yeah. Remind me to search for yellow sign bumper sticker. Yeah. So let's hear. So lightning round. Kellerack asks, have you ever replayed a game you already covered for WoF? If so, did your opinions on it change, or have they mostly stayed the same? I sometimes do this with horror games that we've done for WoF. I will stream them on Hexcrank. And generally my opinion usually stays the same. The big difference is streaming stuff is different than playing it on your own. So there's going to be a different dynamic there.
I've done this a lot. Like I played Resident Evil 4 twice since we've covered it, and stuff. And usually it will stay the same. If I want to revisit it at all, it's something that I like, and I will usually feel better about it. Appreciate new things about it. And if it's something that I was a little bit middling on, I don't usually feel the need to give it a second chance.
Yeah.
Ian asked, do you use your local public library? I used to, because I used to live close to one. Now I do not live super close to one, and they've been closed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But they are nice. I will always go and visit a library if I walk by one, just to pop in because I like it as an environment.
Yeah.
I think they're undeniably good. And now that you can literally rent audiobooks, like you rent files that they're just copies of, so you're not really renting them. There's really no reason not to get a library card and just listen to 1,000 audiobooks for free and rent DVDs and stuff. And yeah.
I need to, I want to start doing this again. I wanted to, but then the pandemic started. I'm kind of ashamed that I don't, that I do not use them. Yeah. Marcus writes, what are your favorite pies?
I'm a big pie fan. I like pie much more than cake. I like most fruit pies. I love, my probably all-time favorite pie though is probably pumpkin pie.
Okay.
I will put away some fucking pumpkin pie. I understand it's got a weird texture. I understand it's like seasonal. I understand it's not like a natural shade of anything. Like it is actually, it looks like a pumpkin, but it's, boy, is it weird to eat just a big pile of orange food. But I will fuck up a pumpkin pie.
Yeah. I don't know. I run a little bit hot and cold on pie. I will like a blueberry pie as far as fruit pie goes, but generally I find that a lot of fruit pies end up being mostly it's mostly filler, just
filling.
Yeah, filling. Yeah. But I something that I do enjoy, my mom makes a chocolate chip pie that is very good. It's like a chocolate chips and like a custard kind of deal with a nice like crispy top on it. Yeah. And I'll throw a dark horse one in here. Cheesecake is a good pie.
Oh, I love cheesecake.
Yeah.
The semantics of that. Yeah, I don't want to get into a hot dog sandwich bullshit. If that counted, that'd be my favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
I love cheesecake.
I'm kind of being provocative. I also am maybe just in a little bit of a mood for that kind of stuff because I wrote and then sent to drafts a tweet where I challenge people. God, this makes me sound like the worst person. Basically,
tell me more about the drafts of your tweet.
Yeah. No, and nachos are basically just it's a platter of open faced sliders.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah. I also read it when I was half asleep, and I was like, if I send this, it's going to be my whole day. So I'm just going to not send it.
I think that you might have been shocked to find out it wouldn't be your whole day.
Yeah, probably.
That feels like a real six favor to me.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Maybe you know your audience better than I do.
Yeah, a real six favor. Oh, God.
But I could definitely be wrong. 100%. Key lime pie as well.
Oh yeah.
Coal Mine Canary says, why do games keep asking me to hunt and skin animals for upgrades? Even Resident Evil is doing it now, and I'm concerned. It's a good fucking question. Verisimilitude, I guess. Like animals are sources of bags and stuff.
Yeah,
in real life.
Blame Ubisoft. This started being a thing with Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 3.
Yeah. I also think it's a bummer. We're doing Horizon Zero Dawn next for the show, and I beat that game last night, and I was realizing the prize. And you get experience for killing animals, so it was so fucking funny to me to be like crossing the map on my mechanical horse, and there's be like an innocent boar or a turkey off the path, and I would just like whip over to it and run it over to get 50 experience points. For no good reason, just like I'm just gonna get some light trampling on my way to get wildlife kill XP. It's dumb.
But also like when you were looting stuff before and like Baldur's Gate or even like MMOs or whatever, that's what you were doing. You just didn't show skinning and harvesting parts. You would kill somebody.
Sometimes there'd be skins.
Yeah, you would loot their head in EverQuest. You could pickpocket somebody's head because of the way the loot tables worked. which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So it's kind of always been a thing, but now there's a weird like survivalist nature bent
Yeah, yeah.
to a lot of modern AAA games that have been around. And I think that's it, because the alternative is like you go to a tailor or whatever and buy fine leather goods.
Yeah, yeah. Or Guybrush Threepwood.
Or yeah, you Guybrush Threepwood it. And they want you to be more of a rugged individualist, and the settings tend to be less civilized.
Yeah, Red Dead and all that.
Yeah. No. What does Jonathan say?
Oh, Jonathan asks, what are the odds that Pac-Man is into vor? I don't know. So it depends on which model of Pac-Man it is, because I always associate vor with like sending stuff through to a larger digestive tract. Pac-Man is basically just a pitcher plant in most of his most of his renditions. Just a big mouth that moves. So I don't know if that technically qualifies as vor. Like if I pick up this little statue of germ warfare from Night in the Woods that I have near my computer and put it in my mouth, am I voring germ? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
don't like to me, like my instinct is I want to be like, Pac-Man is sexless, but then I remember how hot his fucking wife is.
Oh God, and the fact that he has
and
a
the
kid.
fact that he's had kids, like, so I don't know necessarily that he's into vor, because he tends to do that as a nuisance. Like ghosts come to him and then he like has to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And he uses vor as a tool.
But what if the points are how horny he is?
Then I don't know. You got me there. I just assume that he went back from work and his work is like hanging out that maze, and then just took his penis out and just had regular missionary intercourse with his wife, like for hours and hours and hours until babies came out.
Yeah.
Like,
and one of them looked at me.
Lilith flooding the world with monsters from her fecund. Like that's what I assumed was happening.
Yeah.
So, Tom says, what's the best sword in video games? That's a fun question.
Yeah. I don't know.
Boy, that's a good question. I have a lot of affection for the Gravelord sword from Dark Souls.
It's a good one. Yeah.
It's cool. I have a lot of affection for like the Guts sword. So like just the big,
the slab.
Zweihander
yeah. The one you can make in Dark Souls 2 out of the what is it? The Grave Sword or whatever it is? The Grave Great Sword?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
It's not Gravelord. It's something like that. That's very good. Grave Tender sword. Something like that. That's extremely good.
That's just the big slab of iron. I like the Artorias sword, but mostly because the little metal Artorias sword that I got with the Dark Souls 3 collector's edition, I use that to scratch my back.
Oh baby. Yeah. I was thinking about this. I don't know if it's I don't know if anybody else does this, and this is for you, Cole, but also people who are listening. How embarrassed should I be that like if I'm out in public, I will scratch my back like on a tree like a bear? Is that okay?
Do you moan when you do it?
No.
Okay.
I mouth the sounds I would be making though, and I wink.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, I just like my back will get scratchy, and it's like I can't really tolerate this, and I can't reach it. And trees are really good back scratchers. Like bears know what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't do that when I'm outside. Like when I worked in an office, I would not hesitate to scratch my back on a corner.
Yeah. Oh, I do that all the time, and I have a back scratcher at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I should feel embarrassed by that, but I do it a lot.
Generally, I would default to shame. If not for that specifically, then you probably did something shameful at some point earlier.
Oh, 100%. So.
Yeah. John writes, what Simpsons character do you relate to the most?
Good question.
Yeah. I don't know. I vacillate between Elisa and a Millhouse a lot of the time.
Yeah. I'm
aspirationally just a Lenny. Like I just want to be a dude.
Yeah. Kind of a Lisa Lenny.
Yeah.
Character. Because I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm not stupid.
Right.
And a lot of the denizens of Springfield are fucking dumb.
Right.
I've got a good amount of Marge in me as well. Like I really appreciate Marge, and I think that like my domestic life, the Margitudes of my domestic life would shock people for how many like Pac-Man fucking jokes I make. Like it is like, so maybe like a Lisa Marge.
Yeah.
So.
It's tough. And like, especially a lot of them end up being so one note that it's hard to say, right? You
Yeah.
know, because like the most depressed character on the show is Mo, but I'm also not as cranky and misanthropic as Mo is. You know?
Yeah, he's that evil bartender.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's from a late Simpsons. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Oh, you live in the place of the evil bartender? Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. That's tricky. I would relate to Millhouse because I like his helplessness, but also he's an idiot.
He's really dumb. Yeah.
He's just I keep telling you, Bart, nerds are smart. Jan Champion asks, how do you drink your coffee? I drink my coffee with cream and Splenda.
I drink my coffee with cream, just enough to kind of cut the acidity because my tummy can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Andrew asked a whole lot of these, so I'm going to...
We'll do them quick.
Yeah. So Andrew T did a lightning round within the lightning round. We're just going to do all of these.
Let's ping pong too. Let's each just answer every other one. So you ask me one, I'll ask you one.
Yeah.
You ask me one.
Hey, Gary, best and worst Zelda item.
Hook shot is best. That shitty little ladder from 1 is worst.
Yeah, that really sucks.
Cool. Best or worst Metroid item?
Best would probably be the ice beam. I like the ice beam quite a bit. I'm going to say worst is the grappling hook because it's one of those limited ones. Yeah, it's disappointing. Let's see here. Gary, best or worst Mario power-up?
Best, I'm going to go ahead and be an iconoclast here and say the B.
Okay.
Because I think that's the cutest Mario has been. Worst, I'm going to say the spring from Mario Galaxy, which is hard to control and ugly as sin.
Yeah.
Best and worst Kirby copy ability, Cole?
Yeah, this one's tough because I don't know too many of them off the top of my head. I like the one that makes him into a fighter, where he does the barrage of punches. Yeah, that makes him into a little Ryu. And then the worst one, sleep, the sleepy one.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because that's just a downgrade. Yeah. And Gary, best and worst Tetris block.
Best, I'm going to give it to the T block.
Ooh,
versatile.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the one I can always find a place for, basically. And worst, I'm going to give to the Z or the S, I guess. I don't have any real strong preference, but I'm going pure utilitarian with the Tetris blocks.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't go with the L block for the or not L block, the I block for the best.
What's one you can get a Tetris for, but it's not. I don't play games for scores like ever. I just want to play for as long as I can.
Yeah.
So building, I'm very sensible Tetris playing involves taking no risks and making a very stable.
Yes.
Keeping your well short for as long as you can.
You play Tetris is by the ones and twos. Wimp.
Yeah. A lot of time. Yeah. That's why I love new Tetris so much because it encourages and Tetris Effect because they discourage that.
Yeah.
KL says, Gary, help me settle a bet. Is Space Oddity about a literal spaceman or a heroin overdose?
Before we answer this, does the other person agree to defer to Gary's authority? I hate settling bets when they haven't asked. So
yeah, I guess that's true. I could be judged here, but I'm gonna welch out on it because I don't know. I think that it's probably purposely ambiguous because that's David Bowie's thing. He loves space.
Yep.
Like the idea that it's being literal seems too obvious, and he was like a '60s, counterculture guy, but also he wrote a lot of unironic songs just about space.
Yep.
And I think that a Space Oddity in a vacuum, much more likely to just be about space, and then Ashes to Ashes comes out, and then it's like, oh shit, well now we know.
Yeah.
To recontextualize it. So it depends on how much death of the author.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of the a lot of people's idea about that story comes from the song Major Tom,
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Major Tom does not have a lot of narrative content to it. I only know that because I've been watching that video a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
It's mostly about cool roller skate girl waitresses and about how Tom's wife is cheating on him.
Huh. Okay.
It's really strange. There's very little narrative content to that song though. Content.
Let's see here. Andy K250 asks, is sleep an activity at which either of you are Vikings? Why or why not?
Nope. I'm a podcaster who bought a one-way ticket on a flight for some reason and is rapidly running out of options to buy a return ticket to get home in time.
What?
Yeah, no, I just missing flights. Like I'm always trying to find a way to get a flight. I told you about my flying anxiety.
Yeah.
Times.
Okay. No, it sounded like you were answering an unrelated question. I thought I didn't. So here's the thing. We get down to the fundamental difference. Are you of the mind that that Ralph is talking about? Oh, that's where I'm a Viking because I'm really good at sleeping, or I dream about being a Viking and therefore I go into the land of sleep.
I assume that because he says that's where I'm a Viking.
Right.
So I assume he's dreaming of being a Viking.
Okay. Yeah. I decided that.
Do you think he's a Viking at sleep, and a Viking means you're really good at something? Like the guy was really a Viking at fixing my drywall. Is that what you're supposing, Cole?
Honestly, I'm ambiguous toward it. That is that is one of those classic disagreements that people have, such as Sneed's feed and seed, formerly Chuck's, or have you ever seen a guy say goodbye to a shoe? There are those lines that ended up being controversial. So I'm mostly just problematizing this. I am not a Viking. Well, I do not have any dreams about being a Viking.
I'm also bad at sleep. So
right.
in either source of it.
Yeah, I'm
no Vikings for me.
I'm bad at sleep, but I fucking love sleeping. It's my favorite activity in the entire world. So
yeah, me too. I wish I was better at it.
Yeah.
Not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel asks, I'm really glad we got to this one because I love this. You guys like big dog t-shirts? Question mark. Have any favorites? As a joke, I got my brother one that says, I live on the corner of Bite Me in No Frickin' Way. Yay.
Why as a joke? That's a good shirt.
That's very funny. Like I love that. I am way into big dogs. It's very funny. Like, I just want to respond to that. Like when I called 911 at 3 a.m. last night when a car crashed into my house, when they asked for me the address, I should have been like, okay, sir, your address? I live at the corner of Bite Me in No Frickin' Way.
Sir, it's a crime to prank call 911, right?
Yeah. And do you actually need help? I'm unclear. Is there a car partway in your spare office or no? But that's really good. I'm always going to go for the classic one that's like fart loading 98% and it shows the progress bar. So that it's a minute and you got to get out of there.
That's a shirt that we made.
No. If you thought that was me, I apologize. That's definitely that's a big dog.
I think for a Patreon reward, we committed light copyright infringement.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
I don't mind copyrighting the big dogs. If you're going to copyright the big dogs.
Yeah. I'm also a fan of Enormous Johnson,
Sure.
What is it? I got my crabs at Dick's. Yeah.
Big Johnson Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
Those tend to be a little bit more one note. The thing that gives big dog the edge to me is that you have no idea which way they're going to go because sometimes they're like weirdly wholesome.
Right.
Like, I live at the corner of No Frickin' Way and I don't give a heck. And then sometimes they're just like, cops should be able to summarily execute anyone they want.
Right.
Straight from the big dog. And then they'll just have a dog with sunglasses and you're like, you got to figure out what it is you are. Like, what is your philosophy you're trying to espouse here? Because I don't get it.
I think what you do, you order a starter kit. And I think you have to determine which big dog you are that day before you go out. It's like it's like a predator, like predator markings. What are you demonstrating to the world around you? Such as if you grill it, they will come. I might wear that when I'm grilling. If I'm just kicking around on a lazy Saturday, I may wear Pursuing My Dreams, Big Dog's Department of Relaxation. Yeah.
The thing about the big dogs is they contain multitudes.
Right.
Why is there not a fucking big dogs video game that we could cover on Object Suffering? There's got to be at least a Flash one or something. I'm going to launder big dogs into the network in a way where it's just you and I discovering big dogs on the internet for a half hour and just gasping in delight.
Yeah.
For the whole time. Just like, yay.
Oh, God. I mean, Gary, unless you're the lead dog, the scenery never changes. So
you're always looking at some other dog's asshole.
Yep. Yeah.
Unless you're the lead dog. You're just because I think I know that shirt.
Yeah.
I think it shows the picture of like looking up a dog's asshole. Like you're the camera in, Bayonetta. Like, man, those big dogs,
They make a
they
good
get into a
shirt.
lot of business. They get into a lot of hijinks. They've
Yeah.
had some crazy adventures. Thanks everybody for writing in. If we did not get to your question or prompt, we will either in another dispatch episode or watch the Patreon because we do roundups where we cover stuff that we missed just so we don't get too much of a backlog.
Yeah.
And those are also fun to do. Yeah, but don't feel bad.
Right.
We just do stuff for time. Moving on to our topic for this episode. Should I read this or should you? Who did the last one?
You go ahead and read it.
Nick says, "Hey dudes, I enjoy leveling in RPG games most of the time, but some systems either don't give enough options for me or are way too granular. Some examples include in Shadowrun Returns, that series of games felt too basic for me. I just leveled up my main weapon stat and maybe a side stat or two, but I didn't feel like I was making interesting decisions. Looter games often have stats that level up in 1s or 2 percentages that are similarly unsatisfying. What are some games that you think either hit the right amount of decisions or do an absolute terrible job at it?"
Yeah. And this is a common thing. I think people who have listened to several episodes that we have talked about, kind of know that we do not favor the incremental approaches. We want our new spells, not for those new spells to have an extra 3% damage, while understanding that like an extra 3% damage is actually not trivial, like in the scheme of things.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like it definitely can be. And they get more and more trivial as they go. Like I didn't play this, but an example from like a video I watched about it is like in Watch Dogs 1 where you get additional shotgun damage to vehicles when they're moving. Mm-hmm. It's just like very conditional.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Or like look at oh gosh, what is it? Remnant from the Ashes, where it's like you hop over barriers. 2% faster.
1%, 1%. This shit sucks the stars from the sky, and it's something that video games are getting way worse about. Mm-hmm. This is just a preview for next week because we're covering Horizon Zero Dawn. This and game economies are such in the shitter. In terms of like modern big games that they all tie in together in just things that are meant to have historically felt good that do not feel good. That feel limp and weightless. And it's a real serious problem. It's harder to think of games that do it well now than think of games that do it. There's so many games that do it badly. Almost anything with like a modern skill tree is 50% or plus just things that I defy anyone to get excited about.
Yeah. It's rough, I think, because it's funny because you look at skill trees and it's like, oh, you designed this to be wide, and then you realized we had to actually like fill that with stuff. And just when you have a lot of nodes to hit, each node has to be so small as to make it feel like you're not making actual like meaningful decisions. Like a game that is of this ilk that I was about to say was recent, but I realized it came out 7 years ago. But we covered it recently. Shadow of Mordor did this pretty well. When you were making, at least on one of the skill trees that you were on, then you also had those glyphs that you were getting and investing to get the percentage points to damage. Yeah. But when you were actually picking out like new abilities and stuff like that, and in Horizon, I am having fun on that game's version of that skill tree as well. Where you're, getting
there's diminishing returns, but it's fun for a while. It's not the worst one, that can ever be. The economy in that game is way more fucked than the skill tree.
Yeah,
but it all smacks of the same kind of over design.
Yeah,
where like, hey, we got to have skill trees, we got to have craftable components that will give you upgrades. They have to be small so we can have a very long power curve.
Yeah,
but then these games also tend to have competing systems, so they'll have that as well as like damage scaling and level scaling for encounters and enemies and stuff, and it all speaks to just too much fucking control that the developer is taking over the thing to make sure you don't we talked about this a lot, but a fun power curve looks like stairs,
Yeah.
where you're above and below the power curve at certain points,
Yeah.
as opposed to it just being a flat line where everything is basically the same
Right.
the whole time.
Yeah.
If you and I are having a contest to see like who draws the highest card, and we just both add 1 to each increment, like you draw 2, I draw 2, you draw 3, I draw 3,
Yeah.
you draw 4, I draw 4. That's what's happening
Yeah.
in most of these video games, and that's what these systems support.
And so that's why systems that you run into, like in, Fallout games where you're picking new perks, and that I think it works because it pulls from like D&D feats. It feels like to me, like that is the good leveling, where every other level you get kind of just like a new thing you can do, whereas the stuff that feels over designed, I hesitate to make this point because it feels a little bit like I'm just man blames problem on things he doesn't like anyway. But a lot of it feels like it's MMO and specifically like mobile compulsion design being backported to larger single player experiences, with the idea being that this is how the researchers and psychologists have determined this is how we hook people. So every game needs to be like that a little bit.
Every game needs to be a forever game,
right?
For you, like we want players. Games cost this obscene amount of money to develop. Therefore, they have to cost this obscene amount of money to buy. Therefore, we want players to feel like they get their money's worth. So it has to have like a billion little map checkmark things to do, and it has to last for a really long time. And they can't just break the curve for it. And that is a shortcut to development, because you can make a game that is generous and large without doing that. And there is a correlation with tabletop stuff. So like Nick brought up Shadowrun Returns. To me, those are very slavishly tabletop inspired. And for me, the power curves in that aren't necessarily the skill tree, which there aren't really skills in that. You get skills that come along with your stats. But it's like getting new equipment and spells and stuff. Like it's kind of holistic, and you're doing it for a party. So that's kind of where the joy comes from. But look at fucking Divinity Original Sin 2, right? Like, it is exciting and fun to level up in that game.
Yeah.
It feels good. And the reason it feels good is because the numbers are tuned right, and they don't do this micro shit. Like, and it's really long and generous, but that took an immense amount of care and work. They had to design all of that in a way that, like, even in games I like, even in your Shadows of Mordor or what have you, it doesn't really feel as tightly designed for that. Like, there are good encounters in that game, and there are things that I enjoy that game quite a deal. But it's not something where like every single part of it feels handcrafted.
Yeah.
To provide the experience the same way that, and it doesn't have the confidence of letting your players break it or fail at it. You can't let them be above on the stair or below on the stair. They have to be right in the middle of the stair. They have to be on the escalator. Or nothing's going to happen.
Have to be matching it. And to bring it back to something that was, kind of been coming up a couple of times in this episode, when we look at like the version of this that does feel and work best, I think that I ultimately come back to this being a thing that really works for me in roguelike games, but I also might just be thinking of Supergiant games a little bit, where like the important thing, right? So RPG progression could just be you gain points and then you unlock things to, per what, like, the kind of character that it is. It just kind of happens. But what Nick is getting at here, and what I think we're getting to, is it needs to feel like the choice is meaningful, as opposed to just like edging yourself a little bit down the lane or whatever. And Supergiant, and a lot of roguelikes, actually, as you're building your deck and, kind of building for these shorter runs, it's like, okay, here's 2 or 3 options. Each of them could diverge how your game or how your run goes in a huge way. Make your decision, right?
Yeah.
And those are incredibly thoughtfully designed a lot of the time.
It is. I mean, you're on this thing where you're talking about the MMO creep and stuff. It feels like a design decision that is made for people who don't like making decisions in games, or find decision making stressful.
Yeah.
In games. And I don't want to sound too disparaging to that, because I understand people play a lot of video games for a lot of different reasons. To me, making decisions is the best thing you do in a video game.
Yeah.
All I want to do is consider my options, think about what kind of character and set of actions I would like to craft that speaks directly to me. Like I created it. You know, it's not unique. I'm not that naive, but it at least feels expressive
Yeah.
to me. And those decisions are interesting decisions.
Yeah.
And the less a game has that kind of thing, typically the less interested I am in it, with like tons of exceptions. But like if you're just kind of clicking, like to me, these kind of bad skill trees that we're talking about really aren't that different than like Final Fantasy 1 leveling up. You know, it's just it's an illusion. Like you just, okay, I'm a little bit stronger, but I didn't do anything. I didn't decide anything. I just played long enough for this thing to happen.
Yeah. By doing more fights, I can do fights better against harder things.
To do more fights, to do fights better against harder things, to do more fights, et cetera, until you end the game.
Right.
Like that escalator design is one of my least favorite things that a video game can be. And it's not quite Dragon Quest 1, you know, when they do this, but it is gathering that DNA.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so weird that it's so comorbid with open world games.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know Nick didn't bring that up necessarily, but it's something I associate with open world games a lot, which the selling point is like freedom. And it's like, you can do anything, but you can go anywhere, but you can do one of like one thing.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, it's a real, God, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Choice matters.
What are, other than Divinity, what are good character build systems? Let's end on a positive note.
I mean, we could just be fucking parodies of ourselves and say Baldur's Gate or anything that does 2E. You know?
Yeah. D&D games tend to be good character build systems.
Yeah.
I love leveling up in Disco Elysium feels great because it means a different throw at a bunch of different stuff I missed and more story content. Every single time it'd be more great writing and more options.
Yeah.
Would feel really good.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. You mentioned Monster Train, those little Monster Train, like, you know, community chest sections where you get a choice. Like all of those are really fun.
Yeah.
Like both options seem cool as hell and I want them both.
Good, meaningful choices. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm having trouble.
So, yeah. It's something that is again rarer now. And even games that do it well do it like 50% of the time. Like I liked the Spider-Man PS4 game quite a bit. It had its share of like pretty shitty upgrades.
You run into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you just got to fill out that tree and you're always going to kind of do that to maintain that power curve. So it's a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, there are ones that do it well and they tend to be in only in really in certain genres and they don't tend to be huge games.
Yeah.
You know,
unfortunately, you know, huge games, Ubisoft-ified games end up, you know, end up kind of dominating and steering design for a while.
Yeah. They did a lot of, it's interesting because they just did the Nintendo show and they showed some more Breath of the Wild 2. Breath of the Wild 1 almost does this because when you get the those initial abilities you get are all actually really cool. And getting an upgrade to your health or stamina feels good.
Yeah.
You know, and then they just also, though, because it's a huge open world game, most of it is Turok seeds and 1/4 of an upgrade. It's still like incremental.
I love that you call them Turok seeds.
Korok seeds.
Yeah.
Korok seeds are entirely. Once I hunt the dinosaur, I will seduce it.
I don't think he fucks a dinosaur.
You don't think so?
No, you can't say he didn't. Yeah.
Who knows what lurks in the heart of Turok? You know?
I ask myself every day.
That guy about you. The non-RPG equivalent of this is in shooters, it should feel good to get a new weapon.
I mean, fucking Doom, like the Doom's weapon upgrades. Yeah. Yep. And in those, you're making a choice. You have an upgrade node, you reach there and it's like, okay, here's what you have for your shotgun. You can either shoot 3 bullets at once, or you can have it be, get a scope and fire at a distance.
Yep. That stuff is always good.
Yeah.
Like you should, when you level up, you should make a choice that is defined by how you want to play the game. You know, and that is good game design. And if you level up and you're making a choice and you're choosing between 3 flame damage or 3 frost damage, or like, you know, time slows down 5% more when you're in the air.
Yeah.
That is bad game design.
Yeah. Something went wrong.
Yeah. Like you fucked it.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It's just angry. It wasn't even really just, that's what doesn't work. It's way easier to say what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Moving on to everyone's responses to our games for June. We got a lot of responses, so we did not include everybody. So please, again, don't feel hurt. It's just a lot of people wrote in, and we try to keep these around 2 hours.
Yeah. Additionally, just if you're writing in the future, occasionally we make this reminder. I'm not calling out to anybody specifically because generally it happened. Responses are getting lengthier as we're going. Keep in mind that we're looking for stuff that is specific and novel, and also about 2 paragraphs if you're looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this month we had a lot of things that people have a lot of things to say about.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not always going to be true. Like we had games where we just like bat no hitters on them. Nobody responds. Something too, and this isn't in the notes, and I haven't read these responses. I don't read them before we do them. This may not be the case, but just as a general reminder, even if this does not come up now, my like platonic ideal for the response is we do the episode and say what we think about the game, and this is a response to hear what other people think about the game, as opposed to like arguing with points we make in the episodes.
Yes.
I don't know if that happened, but I've been bracing for that with the witness episode because it caused a lot of discourse on the Patreon and in the Slack.
Yeah. It didn't really happen that way for this.
Okay,
and that is not artificial. I didn't like throw away anything that was specifically like combative to us. I was actually looking for something like that so we could represent and say like, oh, here's a response that we got, like that is common to something that we saw. It just didn't work out to be that way. Yeah.
And that's not saying that we want like a bunch of yes man. We just, well actualing our opinions in the thing is not what you want. You could just be like, I thought this. And that's great. So that's awesome to hear. I was just really bracing for it because
I was too. I was pretty stressed when I saw new stuff come into that particular mailbox.
Yeah. So spiced episode.
Yeah.
I'll get started here with Cinder. It says about Hotline Miami. I played Hotline Miami 1 and 2 back to back about a year ago, and I loved it. One of the things I like most about the game is these games are their story. I really hope you end up playing the sequel for WoF at some point, because the way the plot in that intersects with the plot in the first one is really interesting. A lot of fun trying to figure out what exactly was going on, and I have to admit to seeking out some explainer videos on YouTube to help me fully understand it. The plot of the 2 games taken together feels very David Lynchian, to me at least. P.S. If anyone ever wanted to make a John Wick game, Hotline Miami would be a good starting point. Less queasy art, the boons from several masks, active from the get-go, no dog enemies. I would play it. Definitely no dog enemies.
There already is that John Wick game, John Wick Hex. Isn't that like a turn-based strategy game? Or
I have not played that, but it looks really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know it though. I think it's the guy who did Thomas Was Alone.
Okay.
Made that game. Who made like a very wide variety of game styles, subspace, circular, and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I have not played that, but that sounds interesting to me as well, and that would be a good way to do it, John Wick.
Yeah,
agreed.
As far as this, the David Lynchian aspect of that is intentional on the developer's part, for absolute sure. It'll probably be a while before we do Hotline Miami 2 as a sequel. I wouldn't rule it out for me personally. It's different enough.
But it's very similar gameplay wise. Like we could do it, but it'd be it's down the road.
Yeah. Mike writes in via contact saying, I have a lot of affection for Hotline Miami for popularizing the quick restart perfectionist subgenre of action games. But revisiting it this month, I was surprised how dated I found the actual play. The AI is erratic. The melee combat seems to connect only about 50% of the time, and I found the gunplay pretty much impossible without engaging in what I'm tempted to call the worst targeting system in the history of games. Grand Theft Auto 3. I would like to have a word with you, Mike. Sorry. Even the visuals got in the way. Too busy and garish for me, too garish to be readable for me. At the time, I think the freshness of the premise made these flaws more tolerable, but now that games like Katana Zero, Ghost Runner, and Red Ronin have added a lot more polish to the formula, I find it difficult to return to something that feels so primitive in the hands. Immortal soundtrack, though.
Yeah, I all that stuff still works for me as part of the vibe, but there's definitely jank in it. And I have not played a lot of follow-ups to it other than Ape Out,
Yeah.
And I am interested to play those.
Yeah.
So I also want to see this kind of, iterated on, even though the aesthetic stuff, the visuals, all that stuff is very additive to me.
Yeah.
And also the lock on is indeed a trap in that game.
Absolutely. I will say, if you're looking at those follow-ups, I had high hopes for Ghost Runner because I like the running stuff in Mirror's Edge. Don't get it on Switch because the frame rate makes it really difficult to look at in portable mode.
That is a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a real bummer.
PC or console is what I would say on that. Fortunately, I got it on sale, so I don't have to feel too burnt by it. But yeah, you can like a game for its legacy. That is,
100%.
Yeah.
Eric says via contact, fighting the final boss of Hotline Miami back in 2014 was one of the most unintentionally immersive game experiences that I've had. Right before I started the encounter, my roommate and his girlfriend walked into the living room, both very drunk. They're both generally very pleasant drunks, but something about the Hotline Miami's whole deal connected with them hard. As such, they both got extremely into watching me fight this crime boss and his opulent tigers, constantly shouting, "Get him," and "Fuck him up," and "Murder him." And whenever I died, God damn it, Eric. One day I'll replay Hotline Miami. It's a great game, but it's going to be hard to replicate that harmless but erratic drunken energy, unexpectedly contributing to the scummy, sweaty vibe.
That rules. I love that.
That is great. You should have had like Alvaro Molina doing fireworks in the background for Boogie Nights as well.
Yep.
Just, random intervals.
Just good. Such a good sequence. Fuck.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that kind of story. There's about very specific conditions when you were playing. Continuing here, Jay writes via contact. You guys briefly touched on the enemy AI and behavior in the episode, but I wanted to elaborate on it because learning how the AI worked via Denation's blog was a big part in helping me wrap my head around the game. Specifically, that enemies are less accurate and react slower when you're closer to them as a way of incentivizing fast, close quarters fights. Being sniped from faraway enemies made me way too cautious to get in close, and learning that it was just a trick helped me be a lot more fearless and aggressive. Unfortunately, the inverse is also true, that the further away from you an enemy, the further away from an enemy you are, the more accurate and quick they are. So in Hotline Miami 2, when they shifted to larger, more open levels, it made the game much more frustrating and unfair because getting sniped by off-screen enemies, thanks to the massive boost that they got from being far away, became a regular occurrence. It's a great case study in how changing one aspect of a game while leaving another unchanged can cause friction, and how a game developer might not have as good a handle on what people liked about their games as you would hope.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Good additional detail. Thank you.
Yeah, level design matters. Like even in games where it doesn't seem like it does.
Yeah.
Somebody crafts all of those sight lines and makes decisions about the size of those rooms and everything. Robert says via contact, one thing that occurred to me the first time I played Hotline Miami was how much it reminded me of Killer 7. Soderstrom said on Twitter, "Love Killer 7, but it wasn't a direct influence, though maybe subconsciously elements of it made it into the game. I think that's maybe a little bit coy. It's not just the pumping music, but the queasy dreamlike visuals, and the delusional protagonist. Both games follow the same structure almost verbatim. Wake up in your messy home, get an answering machine message giving you orders, then go out and land your hit. It's these comparisons that have me convinced that the ending isn't meant to be a joke, but instead an homage, subconscious or otherwise, to Killer 7. Whether or not you uncover the true plans of the janitors and whether you kill them or spare them makes no difference on what came before, just like the final meaningless choice in Killer 7, where the player decides which nation gets nuked. I like to think that this was probably a joke on Suda's behalf, but Dennison's emphasis on storytelling for Hotline Miami 2 suggests they felt they had a grander narrative to weave. Whether or not they were successful is a matter of personal opinion. I just want to see what you think. Keep up the great work."
Yeah, the comparison holds, I think, based on what you laid out.
It's been a long time since we played Killer 7. So some of the details on it are fuzzy to me, other than like generally remembering the type of game it was and that I liked it.
Yeah.
If I'd played it more fresh, I bet you that would have jumped me as well.
Yeah, I think this is astute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well observed.
Yeah. Kian or Cian, sorry, I never know how to pronounce that one, writes in via contact saying, "Hi guys, just a quick bonus note. When playing Hotline Miami on the PS4, the motion controls can be used for executions. By raising the controller up and quickly bringing it down, the main character will also lift up their weapon and bring it down onto an enemy to finish them off, also accompanied by an impact sound effect from the controller. A small touch, but possibly one of the best and most brutal uses for motion control in a game. Also, full credit to this game for introducing me to the music of Scattle and Moon. FYI, he is also the nephew of James Murphy from LCD Sound System. Still listening to Hotline Miami music to this day. I didn't know that Moon was related to James Murphy.
Yeah, those relational things are interesting.
Yeah,
like that, because they're kind of in the same place, but pretty different aims.
Yeah,
yeah, that's interesting.
I like both of their music for different reasons. So
they're very different. Yeah. That's neat. That's a cool touch on the PS4. I hate motion controls, but I like the idea of that one.
Yeah.
Andrew says via contact, what's left to say about the Devolver's alternate history neon synthwave murder simulator? Planning out the perfect kill route can make you feel like an amnesiac version of Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock, drug problems and all. The regular rhythm of returning to the apartment perfectly sets up the abnormal life of the main character, only to pull the rug out from you right in time for the climax. And the level in the dance club, great synthesis of music, story, and gameplay. But enough about Katana Zero. Let's talk about Hotline Miami. I didn't love it. Goofs aside, I think I prefer the more precise, almost puzzle-like format of Katana Zero over the improvisational react-in-the-moment style of Hotline. I think the 2D view also works better for the style of game, though it might just be that my hands never really got a solid hold of the Switch controls, even if I fumbled my way to the end regardless. Still, I mostly had fun without it. I'm sure there would never have been a later game that I enjoyed much more, so mask off to these scuzzy Swedish janitors.
Yeah.
It's scuzzy Swedish.
Swedish. That sounds like that filthy slur.
Yeah. Don't say that out loud.
Yeah, that's a good fake out you did in the middle there. I'm curious about Katana Zero. People have talked that up quite a bit.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to do it this year at some point.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah. I'm sick of doing this coy shit. It's on the schedule. Somebody else did it. So we will be able to make these direct comparisons.
Yeah, okay.
Later on our own.
Let me retain my power, Gary.
There's no power to it. It's pathetic.
I'm a big boy with secrets. I have information that they want.
Secrets are stressful to keep. I didn't want to just like every single time somebody mentioned Katana Zero in these rounds to be like, I don't know, I find it interesting. Maybe Santa will get it for you for Christmas. It's fucking clown shit, man. Like,
I also like no joke though. I oftentimes get a little bit nervous about making those reveals because sometimes plans change. And I don't want to, but that one's coming up soon enough that I do feel comfortable revealing that. It's not August, but
if something happens to it, we can explain the change.
Yeah,
like people are cool, and we would give the person their money back and stuff. Like if it happened, like I don't know what would happen. Like the developer came out as like a major shitbag or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what would happen to stop us from doing that. But if we like having maneuverability, but also I don't like lying. So, yeah. Soon I will know.
Yes, soon we will know. Yeah, I'm curious about that one though. I know David played it and liked it quite a bit.
It's also, I mean, again, part of the reason why I wanted to put Hotline Miami on the schedule, other than the fact that I want to talk about it, is because I wanted to have that baseline.
Yeah.
Because my understanding was that Katana Zero builds off a lot of Hotline Miami, and I knew we wouldn't be able to go in reverse order.
Right. It's in reaction to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like doing Katana Zero would mean it'd be very hard to cover Hotline Miami at any point, and I need to put those songs in an episode.
No, priorities. Eric writes via contact, I'm a huge fan of Hotline Miami. Not so much the second one, but the soundtrack slaps. I think the game is just about perfect except for one flaw, the lore. Basically, I think the bad ending that you get for finishing the game without hunting for the I was born in the USA password is a lot more interesting and darkly humorous than the quote good ending. It feels way more clever and in keeping with the game's lean design and nihilistic tone to have all of the assassinations be the result of a series of prank calls that got way out of control because the people who answered them decided to just do as they were told without asking any questions. Blowing it up into a convoluted alternate history Cold War story just overcomplicates things and dilutes whatever message about the meaninglessness and destructiveness of violence that the devs intended to deliver. If you want the violence to feel meaningless, have the guts to make it meaningless. I agree with Eric.
Well, I don't think it's an issue of guts though, because again, this is a point I'm like semi-lifting from Aaron Signal, but like the getting that password to get the true ending, I think that you getting an unsatisfying ending about that is partly intentional. Mm-hmm. Like the joke is a little bit on you for doing the dumb thing.
But then they went and made the sequel that built on that as the principle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is true in a vacuum.
Yeah,
like Hotline Miami 1. Like I think that like getting the ending where it's meaningless ties things together better, and I think that's intentional based on the fact that to not get that ending, they're literally just like collecting little tiny pixels.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous activity. So I give it a little bit more credit for that, but again, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I prefer the nihilistic one where it just literally is, if you were looking for meaning, there is not any. So later. Yeah.
Agreed. And so to me, it's the only thing I take is I don't think it's a guts thing. With 2, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. I like calling people cowards. So
sometimes people be cowardly though.
Yeah.
Vassal says via contact, I played Hotline Miami in the summer of 2013. I remember this very well because I was in community college and massively depressed and anxious. For about 2 weeks in between avoiding schoolwork and avoiding housework, the only thing I did was sweat profusely and play Hotline Miami. And boy, did that game piss me off. I got so into the action of it, and I was trying to dissect all the cutscenes and levels to create some sort of meaningful narrative out of it all. Getting to the end and being left unsatisfied was one thing. Spending hours finding all the secrets to get the true ending was something else entirely. We didn't plan to put these together, but
no.
They dovetail together well. That was not a great summer, and having a game let me do all this busy work just to reveal that there's no meaning and I'm a dipshit for trying so hard, that hurt. I took it personally. Because of that, I hated this game deeply for like 6 years and told anybody who would listen. But then I tried it again a few months ago and realized 2 things. The action is not quite as good as I remember, and it's not nearly as cruel as I remember. So yeah, it's a perfectly fine game. Turns out I was just massively depressed and anxious and looking for some sort of meaning in my life. Oops.
One time I thought I had mono for 2 years, but it turns out I was just really bored.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that. I like these. I thought I was angry with you, but I was just hungry,
Yeah. Eventually they're going to make the horror game about being hangry.
No, it sounds like we're laughing at you, but this is such a true thing where you really can't separate your condition from your initial response to something, Yep. Yeah.
Very much so.
I've divorced myself from this, but like I had, a real fond place in my heart for Ocarina of Time because when I first played it, I was homesick from school for a month with pneumonia. So it was like this really liminal, almost dreamlike kind of state because I was sick and just on all kinds of medicine and stuff like that, and obviously not going to school. Yeah,
it's a bummer that even now that I can do drugs as an adult if I want to, I can't recreate that feeling.
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with, or not, there is lots wrong with it. There's nothing stopping me from just like taking a bunch of NyQuil and being sick for a month. I think we just do like Munchausen by Gary, and
Gary, please don't. It would kill your liver. At least do ZQuil.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel good though. It wouldn't have that same feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
I find that generally I like things better when I'm feeling good is the problem.
Me too. It's also being sick hits different.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like when it's like being hungover. Like when you're a kid and you're sick, it's like you're basically still unstoppable. Like sick me is still stronger than well me at now. Sick me then.
Yeah.
Like I would not fight sick 15-year-old Gary.
No.
As healthy 40-year-old Gary.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Let's move on to stuff about The Witness. Caleb writes via contact saying, I think that The Witness is actually a really great co-op game. When I played the game several years ago, I got my whole family around the television, and it was a blast having 4 different people all trying to do the mental work to figure out how everything worked. Obviously, only one person had hands on the controller at a time, but the back and forth conversations we had, try it this way, or what happens if we do this, were a really great experience. And there were a couple of times in the week or 2 that it took us to finish that someone would have an epiphany in the middle of the day and then insist that we turn the game on right after dinner to try out their new theory. None of us really paid too much attention to much of the story-based elements of the game, focusing almost exclusively on the puzzles, but I'll probably never forget how much fun we had just wandering around the island, hopping from panel to panel whenever we got stuck.
Yeah, that is a nice. I played adventure games that way.
Yes.
I've never quite played a puzzle game that way, and I think that sounds sweet.
Yeah, I'm happy it worked out for you, and it wasn't like when The Simpsons tried to collaboratively solve the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Also, I got to do a mea culpa on that witness thing. I said that there were something like, I'm responsible for a factual error we made.
Okay.
I said something like there were something like 20 environmental puzzles. What in my brain, it's something like 20%.
Yeah, so 650 puzzles, 100 or so of them are environmental.
Yes. Like that's what I was trying to say, and then in my head I ended up saying like a number that is, it's not an insignificant difference, it's a huge difference, in terms of that.
Yeah.
My point mildly stands where I still think that the neatest thing about the game is something that it doesn't engage with.
Yeah.
For most of its runtime, but it does a lot more with it than I was giving it credit for. So that was my goof, and it was just my brain mixing up 20 and 20%.
Yeah.
So apologies for that. Somebody pointed that out on the Patreon, and we alluded earlier to Patreon responses. Everybody's really polite who disagreed with us. Like, we're fine. And that one was like literally just me being wrong. So I appreciate somebody correcting us.
Yeah.
Correcting me specifically.
And that is a good purpose for these dispatches to fulfill, is addressing that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Retractions column. Fenreliania.
Good job, buddy.
Contact. Yeah. Hey, I remember from when they sponsored the episode. The Witness is more concerned with being clever and having clever puzzle mechanics than with a player ever understanding them. So many times in this game, I thought I understood a mechanic until it just stopped working. I had to look up a puzzle just to see what the rules even were. Blue and his team are mediocre puzzle designers who think the world of themselves. You get to see a cool alligator through one of the windows in one of the swamp rooms, which is my favorite memory from the game. Jonathan Blow peed in a jug for this game, and somehow that sums it up better than anything else. We didn't talk about the pee jug somehow.
Did he pee in the jug? I think he shared a picture of it, and that was just a prop. My read was that it was a prop that they used for the end, for the end, and people assumed because of the context that he was literally...
It was like piss socking it.
Yeah, which, there's enough stuff to be annoyed about with him without making it up too. So
who even knows?
Right.
I just am kind of surprised that we left that money on the table, because it feels like the kind of thing we would have talked about. Or I would. I mean, I'll be fair. Like I was going to talk about that piss jug.
We mentioned the piss jug when it appeared in the ending in the end cutscene. Because I said you definitely are looking through the eyes of somebody who is yanking out a catheter. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think also we were really concerned with more legitimate and damning critiques of the man's personality.
By that point, we had reached ahead of Steam actually taking apart. Being a
little bit mad. And it's hard to be mad at a jug of piss. You live in a major city, you see them every once in a while. Like they're about.
I mean, even out in the country, dude, trucker bombs. You're just going to see it.
If people get trucker bombed, you get plus 5% accuracy throwing trucker bombs at a moving vehicle.
What I'm saying is piss jugs are an inescapable factor of life. And so forgive me for not remarking on this specific one.
Gotta piss in something.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take us on a whole tangent on this, because even despite our efforts, we're still running a little bit long.
That's fine.
But since I'm moving again, I'm reignited with my horrible idea of like, what if when you moved, you had to take all the piss and shit that you made in the apartment with you? Like you were responsible for moving it with your stuff, and then just taking it to the new house and then flushing it down that toilet.
Yeah.
And like taking that all, and I don't know.
No, I just
gallon drums and shovels.
Again, to be tossed about a tweet guy, I was real proud of one when that Naomi Wolf lady got kicked off of Twitter for saying that we need to separate the waste of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. So that vaccinated people don't pollute the groundwater. I said, look at this naive fool, not knowing that the government separates all of our waste and stores it separately anyway.
Yeah. Well, also urine is sterile.
Yeah.
Dumb shit. It doesn't matter how vaccinated I am. That shit's manna from heaven.
Yeah.
It's basically an ambrosia salad at a potluck. Like, it's fine.
Jesus Christ. I just like the idea of there being like underneath Arlington Cemetery or whatever, just a vast complex of
the septic tank of the unknown soldier's piss.
Jesus Christ.
Just imagining like a like a jug being shipped back to a family and then doing the full 21 gun salute funeral with all the guys saluting it and everything.
Yeah, it's a brick full of coffin. It's a coffin full of bricks for a soldier lost at sea, but also here's all of his piss.
It's a coffin full of jugs of piss that were not lost at sea.
God damn. Oh man, we are cartoons. Shion or Cheyenne writes via contact saying, as someone who played and loved The Witness before knowing anything about Jonathan Blow, I think that's probably the optimal way to play it. Also, there's something really cool in the game that you guys didn't mention, and that's the lake. The lake is a mini map. When you look at it, all the floating lanterns are lasers. The statue of the woman is the mountain. The same statue is on the side of the mountain overlooking the marsh and looking toward the tree houses. All of the things in the lake are puzzles and things relating to the puzzles. Yeah, it also keeps track. Like you can tell how much stuff you have left by looking at those things on there.
Like the basement in Majula.
Yeah, it's a real good touch. I like the synecdoche of that. That is cool. If we didn't mention it, it's just because it didn't fit anywhere as like an area to talk about as its own thing.
Yeah, or just forgot because it's a big game.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is a cool detail, and thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah.
David says via contact, I enjoy The Witness overall, but well, you might say, you might be reluctant to say it, but I will. I thought most of the philosophical content was pretentious twaddle. I do have a very STEM heavy background, education in maths and physics, employed as a low-level systems programmer for many years. Not proud of it, but I've drifted a bit close to some STEM lordy ideas from time to time. But this picture is easy. It's got people in it. Video you're marked on also rubbed me very much the wrong way. Not just because it's so dismissive of other types of knowledge and expertise, but because it seemed to present a false dichotomy and therefore misunderstand the hard science side of it as well.
The false dichotomy that is presented is one of the most upsetting things to me about it, actually.
Well, there's tons of discourse about that video in the Slack, and a lot of people like that Burke, that fella. And apparently that video is a very small part of a much larger conversation.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking about is like the culpability of editing. So really the fact that just the worst part of that video that made that point says more about Blow including it than it does about, Burke.
The point that Burke was trying to make. In the longer video, it does go on to kind of say that there is a bit more, conversation between them, but it leads with what feels like a thesis that Blow is trying to highlight.
Super dismissive.
Yeah.
And like Blow, highlights multiple theses through those videos and stuff, but that one was just very gross. It's like a visceral reaction I had to that.
Yeah.
And, in the Slack, tons of Burke fans were like, no, that man's actually great. The video's really good. If you watch it, he's good.
That series, Connections, apparently is really good and is famous with lots of people who are not us. I had not really seen it. So, apparently that is worthy of attention and greater things. There's a bigger context to that. My thoughts on that individual video in the context as it's presented still stand, I feel. Yeah.
I'm more of a Beekman's World. That kind of fellow with that giant rat.
Yeah. Like I'm a Mr. Wizard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Wizard's such a cranky asshole.
I know,
really
right?
Funny.
It's great.
It's a really funny show. It really doesn't like kids or science.
Oh, God. Zumbini writes via context saying, The Witness is probably the most flawed game that I absolutely adore. I'll admit that Blow inserts a ton of pretentious stuff in there, that entire sections of the game lock out people who are colorblind or hard of hearing. I myself couldn't do the sound puzzles due to not recognizing pitch, and that some of the environmental puzzles are 100% grade A bullshit. I'm looking at you, video puzzles. And yet, I bought this game on day one, played for 6 hours straight, thought about Tetris pieces the next day at work, and mainlined the rest of it as soon as I got home. This game absolutely got its hooks into me from the first second and refused to let go. The moment I beat the timed challenge at the end was one of my top 5 gaming moments. One of the top 5 gaming moments of my life. I can't defend a lot of what Blow put into this game, but it still remains one of my personal favorites. As an aside, I don't think you mentioned it during the episode that in the optional endgame area, accessible after you turn on all of the lasers, there are recordings detailing the in-universe voice actors discussing recording the quotes you find lying around outside. It gives some more context to the purpose of the island itself. My interpretation is that the island was built as a VR meditation aid.
Yeah, there's part of that I know we mentioned where canonically the idea was it was a simulation to achieve some kind of enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember us talking about that. We didn't talk about the specific recordings during that because we only made note of a couple of the audio note things, but it's good to have those, brought to the fore as well. For the purpose of these dispatches.
The fact that they're in the challenge also means that we didn't spend time in that area and so didn't talk about them in that particular part. Yeah.
And we could talk about the decision to add that context to the challenge zone, of your game. Like, we're going to add this context to a place that we're specifically making for hardcore people. Enjoy that. Like, there are ideas being communicated by making that a reward. Yeah. And putting that in that area, but we've talked about it enough. I think that it's a weird thing where it's like you either have the lens where you see Jonathan Blow's fingers like permeating this in ways that kind of squick you out, or you don't. And if that doesn't, I can understand that not bothering somebody, even though to me it's weird because it's like even that added context, which should be kind of a balm, ends up just feeling bad because it's like, man, you put that in your like difficulty fuck section. Yeah. Don't you think that's something that every player should be able to learn about? Like, I don't know. It's one of the, like, there's an episode of The Office called Did I Stutter? Where Stanley from The Office snaps at Michael. And they have a confrontation. It's a really good episode. I love it. And he's talking to him and he says, like, I do not respect you. Like, every decision you make, I would make the opposite one. And I think about that with Jonathan Blow. Like, that's the feeling I get from this game where it's like, I would take a different tact. I feel like I have a different outlook on every single one of these things than you do. And not just different, but like almost opposite. Yeah. Are you saying you could do it better? No, I don't think necessarily. Not to put words in your mouth, but I'm kind of trying to head off strawman or whatever. No, it's just opposite. It's different sensibilities. Yeah, I would just make a different choice. Like, gifted even with his talents, like I would make a different choice. If I were that puzzle designer, I'm like, yeah, to me, I don't want to have the added context for this to be in the challenge zone. Yeah. I just wouldn't do that. And it seems obvious to me. It's hard to, we spent like 2 hours kind of explaining why. It's kind of hard to sum it up quickly. It just feels very obvious in my gut. Like, yeah, you don't do that. Yeah. That shit sucks. But also I'm super happy Zumbini liked this, to have something rank up like that. And then I can totally put myself in the shoes of somebody who, solves that incredibly tough. It's an accomplishment. I couldn't do that. So and Zoom has been great in the Slack talking about it as well. Like Zoom is a Slack all-star and also a big booster and stuff. So good conversations have been having around this. You and I both had, we were bracing to get hit on this. And it turns out like people have been pretty good about respectfully disagreeing. Yeah. With which is nice. Yeah, very nice. Nick says, just want to say I'm very excited for you guys to play and talk about The Witness. I had a feeling that you might avoid it because of Jonathan Blow, but I think it's absolutely still worth playing for the art and puzzle design. I think it's easier to think of this game as a team effort rather than the work of an auteur, since Blow had several more people working with him on The Witness than Braid. In relation to Myst, I prefer how The Witness teaches you to solve its puzzles with consistent principles you learn across the island, whereas Myst is a lot more disjointed and follows a different kind of logic. Very curious to hear how you react to the game's philosophical musings, particularly the one ones espoused in the films in the movie theater. I think a lot of people view the game as pretentious, but I feel like there are a lot of nuggets of truth and beauty to found in places as well, particularly in some of those audio recordings. I love that the game is all about perspective and trying to see things from other points of view in order to discover some hidden meaning in the mundanity or chaos. It's a real shame that Blow doesn't seem to have taken his game's own message to heart.
That last part of it does is kind of the undoing thing for me a little bit. Yeah,
it comes through to me for sure.
Yeah. And I can agree. I can see academically the first point where this does feel like much more of a team effort than something like Braid does. See our previous comments about you either have the lens where you can see past where you either have the lens where you see the fingerprints or you have the lens where you don't see the fingerprints.
Yeah.
You know,
neither is better.
Right.
You know, I have no hate in my heart for either.
Yeah. So, and listen to the episode for our thoughts on the philosophical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably more negative than you were hoping, but hopefully not in a way that feels disparaging to you.
Yeah. Let's see. And then Doug writes, our final one here about The Witness, saying, The Witness, what's up?
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Doug, yes.
Horizon Zero Dawn sponsor, Doug.
Oh, yeah. Also writing about another game that he sponsored. We have Doug saying, The Witness cites Myst as an inspiration and, in its finer moments, than influence is readily apparent. Unfortunately, I found the game actually had more in common with another ancestor, The Seventh Guest. I'm just going to editorialize on this. That is such a savage burn.
I don't know if Doug meant it to be, because Doug paid us to play The Seventh Guest, but it does feel like a savage burn to me. And like, you know, there's some joy to be had in The Seventh Guest. But boy, it's a roughie. The skeleton hand does a lot of work in that one.
It does. So continues. In that game, just as in The Witness, you solve a standalone puzzle and it opens the door to another puzzle. While some of The Witness's puzzles are integrated into the environment, the overwhelming majority of them are simply tablets sitting out waiting to be solved, just as in The Seventh Guest. However, this is where The Witness's bloat becomes a problem. For me, the ratio of good, mediocre, and bad puzzles in both games is about the same, but The Seventh Guest only has about 24 puzzles, mostly varied in terms of type. The Witness has 650, virtually all of which are variations on the same puzzle type. I mean, I like The Seventh Guest's chess puzzles, but I couldn't imagine doing hundreds of them. Whereas The Seventh Guest has a killer soundtrack and a campy Halloween setting and story, The Witness has dead silence punctuated by dry philosophical lecturing. Unsurprisingly, without that glue of fun to hold the Witness together, no matter how clever any individual puzzle was, I just ran out of steam waiting for something to happen. Only to find out the solution was, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Both The Seventh Guest and Myst were smart enough to know that, congratulations, you solved the puzzle is not enough of a treat to entice you to more puzzles, let alone a smorgasbord of them.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, that's hitting on what we were talking about with the additional context.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this in its rush to kind of strip things down to be pure. This ended up throwing out a lot of baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
You know, like, you just get the congratulations and you don't get, you know, I learned more about the Dene.
Yeah. And you're making a reference to the California Raisins ending, where it does say congratulations. I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. But yeah. God, the skeleton hand. The skeleton soup.
Observed.
Yeah.
It does make me want, like, I don't want to play Seventh Guest again, really, but I would like to just, if it wouldn't have overhead on my computer, just change my mouse to that skeleton hand all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Enjoy that. Moving on to comments about Super Mario 3D World, Joel, who sponsored the episode, thank you, Joel, says via contact, I need to say how much I love the cherries. The way the challenges stretch your brain in ways that Mario games haven't before, it makes for a really refreshing power-up. As somebody who likes to multitask, I enjoy trying to maneuver all the little Madrox peaches to dodge enemy attacks and also collect more cherries to make more dupes. The stress of it all reminds me of playing an arcade shoot 'em up, except inside a Mario game. I hope the cherries come back in the sequel that they must be working on. We all hope. I too would also, I want the more cherries.
That's a good power-up design.
really good power up design. And the kind of, the Bowser's Fearification of that, where it's feeling a little bit less controlled and constrained, makes me feel like maybe that is possible.
Hopefully,
like give me cherries on top of multiple costumes. Give me cherries with the hats and stuff, like
just all of them shooting a fireball at once in the direction you go. Yeah. Just a wrecking crew. Yeah. And thank you for sponsoring that episode, Joel. I was happy to revisit that game.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
William writes via contact. I recently played this game co-op with my brother, and it was great. We were constantly battling for the crown. Sometimes, if I knew I couldn't keep the crown, I would jump off to my death to keep him from getting it. Love the game. I love the show. Second thought, when I used the cherry to duplicate Mario, I kept thinking, which Mario was the original? I was wondering if the original Mario died, then who was I playing as? Freaked me out in a weird transhumanism kind of way. Super Mario 3D World, Soma Edition.
Yeah, Super Soma Mario. 3D.
Mama
yeah,
Mia.
Absolutely.
Mama Yua?
Yeah.
Which one is Mia?
That shit is scary.
Yeah.
Read about it as it relates to teleporting in Star Trek and stuff too. None of it's good. Don't sign up for any of those things because you die. Luke says via contact, I always liked Super Mario 3D World, but it's much easier to defend post Mario Odyssey. Before this game was announced, I was eagerly awaiting the successor to Super Mario Galaxy. When I saw that we were instead getting a follow-up to the 3DS's little side game, I was pretty disappointed. I still played the game and really enjoyed it, but the levels made of simple building blocks and the very directional controls were no match for the playful elasticity of controlling Mario in creative, gorgeous worlds. Now that we've had that dream game, and we can appreciate 3D World for what it is, rather than resenting it for what it isn't. This game does a pretty good job of acting as the missing link between 2D and 3D Mario. It handles co-op much better than the 2D games ever did. It has playable cat princesses. Its cherries ask difficult prestige-like questions about the original and the copy. This is a good game.
It is a good game, and I like how so far we're 3 for 3 on commenting on the cherry.
Yeah, I again surprised we left that money on the table in the episode.
Just God, the power inherent to the phrase Madrox peaches.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Madrox specifically duplicates himself when with impact. Mm-hmm. So that'd be like a peach that if you wanted more peaches, you just like flick it.
Yeah.
Or like throw the peach at somebody and then it would become 2 peaches. Mm-hmm. And then 4 when they landed on the ground.
Yeah. Feed the world.
It reminds you of those like the glitches you can do in Oblivion to like unlimited like dupe things and create the portal to the elemental plane of watermelons or whatever. Just watermelons
until the game crashes.
Spot.
Yeah.
It's so good.
God. Yeah. Oh man. Just one of the best early YouTube videos.
Yeah.
The watermelon plane. Yeah.
Punchy. I didn't get very much sleep because a car hit my house at 3 a.m. in the morning. So
yeah,
let's wrap this up.
Were they fans of a comic book character, Gary?
Yeah, big fans of either the Punisher or the Cops.
Okay,
it's hard to tell.
Joe writes, here's our final response here. Joe writes via contact. My first child was born in 2014. Gaming is a favorite hobby of mine, so naturally my son started wanting to fiddle with the controllers as he got a little older. Once he was about 3 years old, he had finally reached a point where he could vaguely play a game rather than just randomly mashing buttons. Other than a few beat-em-ups, Turtles in Time, Castle Crashers, etc., where the simplicity of go right hit guys worked for him, just about everything was too complex to make any real headway. One of the first games we were really able to sit down and play through together was Super Mario 3D World. It's easy enough to farm hundreds of extra lives in the second stage, and the bubble system makes the game endlessly forgiving. My son could make mistakes, and it wasn't ever a real detriment to our team. He could come right back without feeling like he had failed. On occasions when I died, he could still feel like an asset just by staying alive and being a bubble anchor for Dad. Tons of short levels, many with new gimmicks or tricks, and the bright charm of Mario made sure neither of us were ever bored, unlike playing through the same beat-em-up for the 10th time. Just last year, we tried to play New Super Mario Bros. Wii together. The button you hold to run is also the button to grab another player, which in a small 2D space means you are constantly grabbing one another and completely ruining each other's jumps. It's infuriating. It only made Super Mario 3D World look all the better by comparison. It is still a favorite game of ours, a joy at 3 or 30.
Nice.
Yeah, I love stories like that.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. Thanks everybody for reaching out. If you have things to say about July's games, please reach us at duckfeed.tv/contact by July 15th. Those games are Horizon Zero Dawn, and then what? Little schedule switch up here. We're going to do the Stanley Parable, then Heat Signature.
Yeah.
Because of my move.
Yeah. And then the premium episode for that month for July is going to be Prey 2016 or 2017, whichever year that came out in.
16, I think.
Yeah.
And we're ready to announce August.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah. So starting off, something I'm really excited about, actually. We are doing Sam & Max Save the World.
Yeah. The first season of Telltale Sam & Max games. An era of Telltale that is not remarked upon very often.
No, but it's still very cool. I have really fond memories of those games, and it's been a minute since we've done a straight-up adventure game.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. The second game we're doing that month is Paradise Killer. This is a game that I've dipped into and have really enjoyed kind of the tone and lore of. Boy, I like a good mystery.
I think it was my friend Will's favorite game of last year, showed up on a bunch of those lists, and I didn't know anything about it. I assumed based on the name it was a Danganronpa style, and Will liking it, like a time travel visual novel.
Right. No,
apparently is not.
It is not. Yeah. And then the premium episode that month, this is a big one. It's going to be a long episode too, because we made a choice to do it as one episode rather than breaking it out. But it will be our summer JRPG. We're doing Chrono Trigger.
It's time to Chrono Trigger. I'm extremely excited to be yelled at for saying this game is really, really good and still a little bit overrated. So get your tomatoes ready.
Yep.
To throw at me. But I'm actually really excited to play it. It's been long enough since we played a traditional JRPG that I'm like really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
There are a million different ways to play Chrono Trigger. I'm going to bust out my 3DS. Or my DS copy.
I love that. That's the best version. I love that so much. Yeah.
And just an excuse to get out my DS will feel good. And then, just wonderful music and stuff. That'll be a real fun episode.
Yeah.
It's on the shorter side. The reason why we can do that in one episode is it's like a 25-hour game.
And the mechanics are not necessarily complicated. So the generalities won't be
very simple in that.
Yeah.
Everybody will get the generalities. Patrons will get the full episode at $5. We have cool stuff coming out the month after that as well. It's all smooth sailing for the rest of the year. Like everything that we have, I think is cool.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sticking with us and supporting us and all of those things. It's all great.
Yeah. So to get those premium episodes, go to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. Check that out. You get all of the premium episodes and a whole bunch of other stuff. As we approach summer here, it is, just kind of a nice reminder of how cool it is to have this job. And we could not do it without your support. So thank you.
Absolutely. And until next time, take care of yourself.
Take care.